You've been chasing your monsters and they've been driving you bonkers, just blinding with rocket launchers of light to blow out their conscious. If you really want to juxtapose and take a darker color with the blush of rose and then you put it in your ink and watch it go, your mind is always open when your eyes are closed, because you're blind to color and you're blind to greed, blind to all the things that you don't need, and you find a mind and then you plant a seed, then you nourish it a little, let it free it up and breaking it down. Wanna give up, keep holding your ground, turning it up and down to the sound. Oh, the sound of change.
I can hear it now, the horns are playing the victory sound. I live in the now, the sky's my home and I live in the clouds. Now I'm never bound forever, making a change.
Hey everybody, it's June of 2020, and from Park City, Utah, we've got the creator of DC Shoes and Hoonigan Racing, Ken Block, on the show today. Ken, thanks for inviting us into the shop here. This place is amazing, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, you reached out to me, and I said, damn, I don't go to Southern California, especially Corona, that much anymore. But so it's great that you guys were able to make it up here, especially since everything that's going on right now, and to have basically Supercross in my backyard, even though I can't go watch it.
Isn't that weird?
But it's rad having Ricky and Kenny and everybody and Chad, everybody in town right now.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen you've connected with a lot of those guys and sponsored them, I'm sure, with DC Shoes back in the day, and so a lot of good relationships there, huh?
Yeah, and it's funny, Davey reached out to me right before it was announced, and I'm like, sweet, so you're coming out. He's like, nope, because he didn't want to deal with all the crap of getting in and out and all that
super
sort of
weird.
stuff.
Yeah, it's
so
super
he stayed
weird.
home.
Well, we're excited to go through your story with you. I'm David Pingree, the host, as always. With me, GL, our co-host. Welcome in, buddy.
Thank you.
And Donnie Bales, our producer. We got a action-packed trip. We've been out riding this morning. We got mountain bike rides planned tomorrow and another show, so we're full throttle. But we're stoked to get into your show here.
Hey, being here is just in this shop is just unreal. You can watch it on camera all you want, but just seeing everything here is just another level.
Yeah, we're going to try to do a quick little phone tour or something if Ken will let us, and we'll put that on the site so you can see it. It's just, I've never seen anything like it.
I like the creativity. I've been obsessed with these containers. I'm like, that is such a brilliant idea, man. I love it.
Dude, I want to live in here.
That's what my wife and kids say all the time.
Who wouldn't?
I want to live in here.
Look at the size of that bar area. I mean, they'd be happy for a while.
Yeah, it's a bigger kitchen than we have at home, so my wife always jokes that she wants to come live here.
And that countertop. Tell us real quick about that countertop. It's super cool.
It's used skateboards. So there's some guys in the Midwest that go around all the skate shops and buy up or get like the used skateboards from the kids and then actually make tile out of it. So
You got to see this. We'll show you.
It's super cool. The thing is, I might not have known it if you hadn't pointed that out. I was like, I don't know what these tiles are.
I kept looking and I got drawn in because each one is different. So I kept getting drawn in. Eventually, I'm like, who makes these tiles? He's like, dude, skateboard deck.
Well, we had a fun time brainstorming all the ideas to make this place. And from reusable sort of recycling type messaging, bamboo, used shipping containers, to use skateboards and kind of bringing all the different things that have kind of made up my crazy life into one place and make it creative. Like I work with a great team of people to do a lot of creative projects, and this place helps us be inspired.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what I was excited about? In the bathroom, you wave your hands over the sensor for the sink and it actually works the first time.
Yeah.
You don't have to like flag something down to get it to work.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the toilet's all stainless steel and like aluminum. It's badass. I'm like,
fancy air dryers for hands.
This toilet's the coolest thing I've seen. Anyway, this place is rad. We'll give you a little tour of it.
I'm kind of insulted by the toilet concept.
The toilet's badass. I'm just saying.
I just showed you a car with 1,400 horsepower.
I'm just saying, when you're impressed with the toilet, that just speaks to how amazing everything else is.
That's the beginning level.
When you go in,
even the toilet is cool.
But the decal on the outside is a race car driver with a helmet. I'm like, oh yeah, this is where the dudes go. And then the ladies.
I didn't mean it's the coolest thing in the shop. I just mean when even your toilet is cool, you've crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's. That's what I'm trying to say.
I got you.
There's nothing in here not cool. Anyway.
Except for us, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stinky and sweaty. I've been riding all morning, so I apologize if there's a BO rolling your way. I want to thank our sponsors.
I'm just jealous. I didn't get to ride this morning.
Well, you're under contract. You got to stay safe. I can get hurt, and, it's okay. I want to thank Yamaha, sponsors that bring you guys this show. Couldn't happen without those guys. Leader in the power sports industry. Amazing products. Winner of every shootout the last at least 3 or 4 years in the 250 and 450 class. These guys are killing it. You can almost guarantee the guys are going to pull a whole shot in the 250 class on one of those Star Yamaha bikes. They're awesome. Check those guys out. PowerDot, if you have any kind of injury, maybe you had a surgery, maybe you just can't get to your masseuse because those still aren't open yet, check out PowerDot. This thing's got all kinds of features from injury rehabilitation, injury maintenance, injury management, and just massage. So they're awesome. 20% off using our code Whiskey Throttle. Big thank you to Method Race Wheels. They're bringing you our front end chatter. Again, 20% off using the code Whiskey Throttle. Troy Lee Designs bringing you our timeout today. SKDA Graphics bringing you our Get At Me Q&A. 20% off still on our Whiskey Throttle Show graphics over there. Big thank you to Adidas. Don't be a dick to your feet, we like to say. Get yourself into some good shoes. Pro Circuit, we actually just saw Mitch Payton down at the track we were riding at, and he was just fishing off the bridge. I guess he's been there all week. And he's caught one fish. So not a lot of luck there, but he does make fast motorcycles. So if you need to get your bike handling or running better, check those guys out. Dunlop Tires, big thank you to them. They're just the leader in the industry. Nihilo Concepts, get a free gift over there using the code Whiskey Throttle with any purchase. Fire Department Coffee, again, brand new skull crushing espresso out. So big thank you to those guys. Again, 20% off using our code. 10% of their net proceeds going to injured firefighters. So do a good thing. You're going to drink coffee anyway. Make it for a good cause. Seat Concepts, big thanks to those guys also. Amazing saddles if you're looking for something better than what comes on your bike. Specialized Bicycles. We may have to post some of Ken's bikes. He's got some rad-looking Specialized. Troy Lee Designs, painted a couple of them. Sweet bikes. And OGO. Those guys just make the best bags there is, period. So if you're looking for something, backpack, hydration, pack, gear bag, roller bag, whatever, they've got you covered. So thanks to all those guys. Let's get into our front-end chatter from Method Race Wheels. The lightest, strongest, fastest wheels in off-road for your truck, SUV, Sprinter, or UTV. Ken, I wanted to, this is a little off-the-cuff kind of industry stuff or whatever. In the 90s, skating shoe companies were everywhere. Etnies, DC, Vans, Globe, Airwalk. DVS. I mean, everybody, that was like the coolest thing is to have a shoe company. But I feel like that's kind of fizzled now. You don't see it so much anymore.
Well, I mean, everything in those markets has changed mainly because of the internet. So in the early 90s, things were a lot simpler.
Yeah.
And even as action sports grew, a lot of those companies that you named actually came in kind of after we did. When we started, it was literally only Etnies, Airwalk, and Vans, basically. So from America to DVS kind of all came in that big boom as X Games got big and action sports just grew. And then, everyone started with shoe companies going in and sponsoring everything from snowboarding to motocross. Mm-hmm. So it was a really cool time. Like I feel really blessed that I started out doing everything that I did in the early 90s, and I was a big part of that huge growth, from watching Tony do, a 900 to Travis doing the double backflips. That was just such a cool thing to be a part of.
You guys were connected to so many athletes. Jeremy was one of your guys, if I remember right.
Yep.
I mean,
RC.
Yep.
RC, yeah. So to be able, like you said, to be able to root for those guys and be like, yeah, that's our guy. I mean, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I was lucky to be able to work with some of the greatest skateboarders in the world, from Danny Way to Rob Dyrdek, and then snowboarders. But I grew up riding dirt bikes, so when we got into motocross, it was just a really fun thing for me because there was a love for all the other sports, but really for me there was a genuine love for going out and being on a dirt bike too. Yeah. So I remember going to Supercrosses and watching Jeremy, and the height of that fandom and the stardom was insane. Yeah. And then eventually have him, on our race team along with Ricky and Rhino. It was just, it was amazing.
Yeah. Do you feel like are action sports kind of on the decline? Like you watch X Games and it's very different now than what it was in its heyday. So to have, and this happens, I think, in all sports where something gets cool and all these other brands pop up, and then just through attrition, the other ones kind of go away and sort of the major brands still stay. But is that what we're seeing?
From all the data I know, nothing is declining. What really happened was, when I was growing up in the 80s, there was just stick and ball sports, right?
Yeah.
And then the alternative was like skiing and then surfing but then skateboarding and snowboarding. All these things started getting more popular and got coined the name action sports.
Yeah.
And in these couple of decades, we've watched this go from very niche, small things to explode and then be part of mainstream skateboarding, snowboarding, motocross, freestyle motocross. 30 years ago, freestyle motocross was nothing. And nobody would have even known. But now today, Travis Pastrana's name is a household name.
Yeah.
Well,
so it's just that, not that things have declined, it's that things have become normal.
Yeah.
And kids today, like when I was growing up, like you either played baseball or football,
Yeah.
And nowadays kids are like, nah, I want to skateboard this afternoon. I'm going to BMX tonight, and then I have a baseball game that I'm playing in, tonight,
And I think that's rad. The one little trend that I don't like is there's a lot of kids that go, I'm just going to stay inside and play video games, or I'm going to I'm going to skateboard on this Tony Hawk game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that sucks. I don't care what you're doing. I like kids to get out. I tell my kids, just get the hell out of the house.
Yeah.
Go ride your bikes. I don't care. Go do something.
I think things were going in that wrong direction for a bit, but through this whole pandemic, I don't think I've seen as many people and kids and adults walking dogs and just people out and about. The minute they said stay at your home, everyone went out and started doing things.
Well, I the funny thing is I love video games. I've been playing them since I was a kid. I love electronics. I love damn phone and iPad and everything. And I love the accessibility to everything around the world. But you have to have a balance.
Yeah,
sure.
Like if that's all you do, like I just don't think it's good for you. I think today we're so much smarter about how to train and how to get out and exercise and how to enjoy the world that I think it's better to find the right balance. But really, I push as much as possible to get outside, get my kids outside and go do things to enjoy the physical side of life. Yeah. But that doesn't mean I don't love it.
I mean, we all do. I'm a mad. The only game I really play is Mad Skills Motocross. But sometimes I'm like,
I play.
What should I do? Or if I'm on the stainless steel toilet back there for a while, I'll be going.
Well, one of my favorite games is like Dirt. The Dirt games 1, 2, 3. So I've always loved racing games. So that's my kind of little thing. Whether it's F1, MotoGP, I like the car games. They're better than motorcycle games. But what I wanted to ask you when we were talking about the extreme sport and how it's maybe changed a lot over the years, do you feel like the first time I went to X Games was just to watch when I first moved here, I felt like there was a lot of it was appealing to getting a live audience, to getting people there and getting the feel. And then I felt like as the years went on, it was more about TV, and they didn't care so much to have fans. Or they'd have one little grandstand there just to have someone in the background. Am I right or wrong on this one? I mean, do you think maybe that had something to do with it? It became more convenient to watch it?
The couple of years I did Supermoto at that, we were the athletes were like fans, and the athletes were kind of an afterthought. It was all about TV. You know what I mean? Not that they don't take it. The purse was good. They treated you good, but the TV was it, and all the other stuff just fit into those TV schedules, right? So,
well, I think that's a part of life, though, because as these have become more popular and people stream so much more, and you have so much more opportunity to watch what you want to watch, the attendance of events has just gone down and down. If you watch certain events, like, oval track racing, where they've built these stadiums that fit 90,000 people, but only 20,000 are showing up now. It just really shows that entertainment level of what people want to see and how they want to digest it is just different than 30 or 40 years ago. And that old model, crap, I mean, think how many baseball stadiums there are built around this country that just aren't used the same way that they were used decades ago. But that's just the reality of us as humans developing this technology and then consuming things the way that we want. Now, the funny thing to me is that I love the benefit of it, that when I was a kid and I loved rally racing, I couldn't watch it.
Yeah, it was so hard.
It's like we were lucky if they put something like on ABC Wide World of Sports. Like, they have a little segment.
Motocross is no different. When I was a kid, it was Cycle News 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Right. But nowadays you can search 1-2 words, rally racing, and see thousands of videos and be able to select exactly what you want, or watch a race from Switzerland. It doesn't matter what country you're in, as long as you know what's being fed to you and how to watch it.
Is everything super disposable now, too, where fans want to look at something for 2 minutes and then move on to something else?
Yeah, it kind of depends. There is certain elements of that to where you see fans come in and maybe digest short term, but like YouTube pushes a lot the longer episodic type content, which the consumers do consume. So I really think that there's like all different sorts of ways that people want to consume stuff. And even for us, like at Hoonigan, we do 30-second stuff, 5-minute stuff, 15-minute stuff, and then live events that are 2 hours. So it's really giving the consumer the opportunity to watch it the way that they want to be entertained.
Well, I really want to pick your brain a lot, because as I was going through prepping for your show, it kind of hit me like, I don't know if you're a marketing genius or you have the right people around you, but you've been like on another level with marketing from the time DC started to today. You're way out in front of stuff. And so that's why I want to pick your brain a little bit. Do you think, talking about media and the way things are changing, there's been talk of like, well, maybe Supercross will go to this where they do multiple events in a shorter period of time. Think how much cheaper it would be for Feld to like just rent one stadium, do 2 or 3 races in a week's time, then go to another city, do the same thing. If you're not so much worried about the fans coming in, if a TV is the big draw, you could save a ton of money from moving it around. The riders save time and money. Your season could shorten way up, which has been a big concern of teams for a long time. Is that something we maybe see, like the format kind of change?
I mean, it's definitely possible. We've seen, well, at least I have visually seen, like Anaheim 1, maybe it's not as full as it used to be 10, 15 years ago, and maybe that's a solution for them. I don't really know all the background of their numbers and things, but I mean, it's stuff like that to where a lot of companies are thinking sort of differently about how they can mold in their sport to like how the consumers are consuming things.
Times
today.
are always changing, and if you stand still, that old saying, you'll be gone by the wayside. Yeah. So I mean, I got to imagine they got to at least entertain all the different ideas and see what the vibe is.
And they'll sell a race out here and there, but to your point, they took out, I think, 30,000 seats out of Angel Stadium where the waterfall is. That was all seating, and I think early 90s.
It went from 74,000 to 45,000.
Yeah, and they used to sell that sucker out. And so now it rarely sells out at only that many seats.
Yeah,
right? So,
I know that a lot of those stadiums, I've talked to a couple different promoters and different people. They've actually, and I've been to the new stadium in Vegas where they do a lot of the UFC fights. And there's less seats, but they've done a better job with the seats, and they've done a better job with being able to get your burger and your beer. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a more luxury experience going there.
Just go to the AT&T Stadium in Dallas. That
say.
place is another level of a stadium. You go in there and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, the old model of like, I'm always shocked because we're spoiled. We usually are sitting in a press box or a suite, right? Being in the industry. But if you go to sit in regular seating, I mean, those seats are little, man, and you're packed in like cordwood.
And a bigger guy has to stand up just for you to go by, and and you're like, sorry. So come back with your food. Sorry.
Maybe that is the way, like you're saying. It's if you're gonna go, maybe the tickets are a little more, but it is a little bit more of a luxe environment.
Yeah,
a
more
VIP
of a
experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I know back when I lived in California, there was a theater near me that was like couches and VIP service in a theater that was it was selling out, because if you're going to go spend the time, I would spend a little more money to have a better experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And they bring you booze.
Gio, as long as they got vodka, he's in.
You got Tito's here? Everything's good.
I'm telling you, that's the only way to go watch movies.
With a bottle of vodka?
No, they just bring it to you. Just wave your hand. It's great. You get your food and everything.
All right. Well, that's our Method Race Wheels front end chatter. Get over to whiskeythrottleshow.com. Check out the shows we've got posted. We've got some cool content. We'll try to get a tour of the shop here, but all of our guests, we've got photos you've never seen before, cool little video content. So check that out. And you can pick up our merchandise there as well, like this race team tee. And also, Mad Skills Motocross 3 is out. Download it and play it. It's great. Okay, let's get to you. Let's get to your story. Long Beach. You're from the LBC. What was it like growing up there as a kid?
You know what? It was an experience. No, it was good. Weird, random story. Like, my parents actually met in Detroit. So it's actually cool for me to work with companies now in Detroit because that's where my family's from. Huh. And my mom and dad had met there, and they moved to Long Beach and bought a house. And it was east of the 405 by just like a block, but they bought it for $11,000 or $12,000 back in like the 50s.
Jeez, man.
So I have 3 older siblings that all grew up more in the 70s, and then I grew up in the 80s. And it was.
How old are you?
52.
52.
Did you go to Milliken?
No, I was right down the street from Milliken. I actually went to a small Catholic elementary school, which is super strange. But my parents were dedicated Catholics when I was a kid. And then eventually they decided my dad had sold his business and they wanted to own an avocado grove. So I ended up down in Valley Center, which is North San Diego.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's when I was like, okay, you moved me to the country. Like, now you have to buy me a dirt bike. Like I skateboarded and rode BMX bikes when I was a kid because I lived in the streets.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like normal neighborhood, but now I'd lived in the country, and I was like, it's time for you to buy me a dirt bike. And they weren't happy about that. They didn't want to do that.
So even back then, you weren't like a traditional sports kid? You liked skating?
I grew up playing baseball, and I've been to many, many Dodger games.
Okay.
Because my dad was a baseball guy. And I loved it when I was a kid, but I didn't like team sports that much. I just didn't, especially because at one point I was on a really good team. We went on to win, a championship. And then the year after that, I went to high school and then tried to get on like the freshman team. And it was basically who could kiss the coach's ass the best to get on. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back to skateboarding and riding my dirt bike, Mm-hmm. And so I enjoyed it. I enjoyed both elements of the team sport and the individual sport, but I find that I like the creativity and individuality of, things where it's on you, the pressure's on you, and that's it, And
I wonder if that's a personality trait. I think of all the people that are in these sports, action sports.
It probably speaks for all of us.
Yeah, you like kind of shouldering the, like you said, all the pressure's on you. You do good or you do bad, it's on you.
Yeah.
Because on a team, while sometimes, like you said, it can be great, it can also be really frustrating. You might be playing awesome yourself, but if your team sucks, you're losing every game.
Yeah, well, it's not even that they suck. It's that they don't put in the same effort as you do.
Right. That's where I had issues.
You guys, professional motocross, if you didn't train, you weren't performing well on the weekend. It's on you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's
no one to blame.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It all comes back to you. So, you make your own luck, to a certain extent, but especially with individual sports, the pressure to perform, the pressure to train, the pressure to make yourself better and put the entire package together, it's on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always a great team behind putting the bike together, getting everybody there, working on team tactics. But at the end of the day, if you're not prepared,
the buck stops with you.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm torn. One thing that drives me bananas, it's been like this for a while. When riders are on the podium, they say, yeah, we've been working really hard. We had a good night. And I get it, right? Like you want to credit your team and your trainer and your manager and all that. But something about that rubs me wrong. It's like, well, you were out there riding the bike. You had a good night. You can thank your crew and team.
I think it's just become
become the normal now.
Yeah, we.
I said when I raced the Parker 250, I said we had a good race, and he's like and I'm like, I had a co-driver, dude.
Oh, that makes sense.
But you yelled at me at first.
Yeah, I did yell.
Yeah, you yelled at me. And I'm like, I have a co-driver.
Is it the royal we? Or are you saying like we had a great? What is it? I don't know.
I think they're trying to.
I actually feel the same as you do. I feel the same.
I know. I just think, man. When you suck, do you go, yeah, we sucked?
We had a bad night.
No.
Like everybody struggled today.
Truly, it's like, I didn't get it done today.
You got to blame somebody else. No, he sucked. I was doing good, but
they do indirectly. It's like, well, my bike was kicking a little bit, or I just couldn't get over that jump out of the corner.
Hey, that being said, so a question for all three of you. It's like, when you have something that's gone wrong, technically, that wasn't your fault, do you go back and yell at that guy? What happens?
I think every situation's a little different, but if it's happened over and over and it's negligence, then yes.
Yeah,
if it's a freak deal, I usually would just try and get to the bottom of it. Like, how do we prevent this from happening again?
Yeah.
That was my first thought.
Yeah, for me, it's always a learning experience. I look at every day in the car, and what we're doing as a team is learning experience and always trying to better myself and better the team. So if there is a problem, it's like, okay, how did this happen? How do we prevent it from ever happening again? So
some people get frustrated. I think they just want to lash out immediately because of that situation. But a lot of times when those guys get to cool down a little bit, they realize, well, I was probably out of line. Might need to go make an apology real quick.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to take a nice deep breath.
I know. That's great advice, Ken. I wish I would have heard that 20 years ago.
You weren't emotional at all on the bike, were you?
Maybe a little.
So your first dirt bike was what? You moved to Valley Center. What do you nag your parents? What do you get?
XR75.
Oh, yeah.
And then went from that to like an RM80, then a KX80, then a KX125. I raced at Verona Oaks, and I raced at Carlsbad Raceway before it closed. My first concussion, Carlsbad Raceway.
You don't have to go down hard there to get one.
Worst mud.
You look at the dirt and you get a concussion.
Yeah, worst mud in the world.
Hey, so you said your parents weren't happy about getting you a dirt bike. How'd you talk them into it?
I mean, typical kid stuff, like I promised to do this and that, and chores, whatever. And they were just really against it. And I would actually get injured and then hide it. Like I still have a scar here from like crashing and landing on the foot peg on my like side right here on my stomach.
That hurts.
And like it should have had stitches, but I wasn't going to tell them and have to go to the hospital. Right? Yeah,
just bleeding through your shirt. Oh, it's ketchup, Mom. I'm good.
Yeah, but that's how much I loved it. I didn't want their fear of what I was doing to interfere with my love of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it was cool though. Growing up in Valley Center, I can't remember there was like a local pro's name that rode at Carlsbad and Verona. I can't remember his name, but he actually taught me a bunch of stuff, and we had tracks out there, and then go on the weekends and go to the different tracks and race and practice. It was rad. I got to like an intermediate level, but I never got beyond that because I discovered girls and partying in high school, and kind of all the riding decreased from there.
For
unfortunately,
it happens. Many a good man's gone down that road.
Yeah. Well, literally, what happened was I kept having parties at my parents' house. And every time they would do that, they're like, all right, we're cutting you off. Or they would threaten to cut me off. Because they were just helping with a little bit of money. Because back then, you needed tires. You needed fuel. You needed to get to the track in my dad's Ford truck, Yeah. And so I would do stupid stuff. And they'd be like, all right, we're finally cutting you off from that little bit of money we're giving you. And like, all right, well, I guess I'll go do something else, It's just, dumb teenage stuff.
Yeah. So... All right, so partied a little through high school then. By the time you graduated high school, you went straight to college?
I did 1 year of I was really into architecture when I was a teenager. Like I still love building design and architectural design and just industrial design. So I went to a drafting school in Phoenix so I could basically go right into the field.
Okay.
And so I worked, so I did the drafting school for a year. I was a computer-aided draftsman. And then I got done with that and went straight into a job in Escondido, actually doing car dealerships. And so I was designing and managing the design of car dealerships.
Okay.
And then after a year of that, I'm only like now 19 or 20. And I'm like, what am I doing? I went straight from high school into 1 year of school. And now I'm wearing a tie every day going to an office. And I was just too young to do that. And so
Not your style.
No, I just said, screw this. And I basically became a snowboard bum and lived up in June Mountain by Mammoth because Mammoth didn't allow snowboarding yet. So I went to June. And then I moved to Breckenridge for 2 years with some friends. And
ski bumming it. Were you like working a lifts?
Yeah,
or
no, I was actually
bartending?
working in the ski shops and snowboard shops.
Okay.
And at one point, I was a snowboard instructor until I discovered that really sucked, having to try and teach people.
You got to be really patient.
You got to be really. I don't have that kind of patience. I still don't have that.
Especially
kind
on
of
the side
patience.
of a mountain waiting. And
Yeah, cold. Yeah, with someone that's not listening, and that was
Your
terrible.
patience just runs out real quick.
Yeah. So anyway, I did
Like
that for,
snowboarding is not for you.
Yeah.
I don't know how to tell you
Let's
this.
get to the bottom and let's just wrap it up.
I'm sorry, this is over for you.
Let's go have a hot chocolate in there real quick and talk about all the things.
Try
we do.
knitting.
Yeah. So, but through all that, though, I had good friends from the snowboard industry and the skateboard industry, and you know, like one of the guys that I went to high school was best friends with Tony Hawk. And so I had all these industry connections. So I moved back to California, North San Diego, and went back to a small junior college called Palomar College.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Damon Way, who ended up being my business partner all through DC. And
so you didn't run any businesses in Colorado. You weren't starting anything there. You were just snowboarding and working.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I learned in Palomar College how to do silk screening, graphic design, graphic layout, and a bit of marketing. And then I just started like making T-shirts for like Hobie Oceanside and this shop called First Tracks in Breckenridge, just for fun, right? And they're like, hey, we really like this stuff. We like what you're doing. And then that just kind of grew. And then Damon and I started a couple brands together. Then eventually we had DC, but it all literally started from meeting Damon in an algebra class at a junior college.
And I remember some of your brands. Rhino and Phil Lawrence used to have drawers stuff all the time.
Yeah,
I remember drawers.
Yeah.
But I look at some of the other ones were 8-Ball.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
He says, were you involved with XYZ or Gouge?
XYZ was a shop.
Okay.
That a guy named Tommy Caudell and Danny Way owned together, and that was in Carlsbad. So they were a big, retailer of ours.
Okay.
So it was a good group of friends all doing rad stuff, and skateboarding was smaller back then, and so it was all a great group of guys that wanted to promote us, and everything grew, and it was just a very cool time. But it all literally started from me learning how to do that stuff in a junior college and meeting Damon Way in a algebra class, and then we just kind of connected all the different people that we knew to do all the things that we did.
So I know Danny was a pro skater. Was Damon also? Or how did
Damon
you guys?
was.
Okay.
He's slightly older, a year and a half or 2 years older than Danny, and he was actually just as good as Danny around that time. And then he ended up getting into a fight and hitting his head like on a curb, got knocked down, and so he ended up with some nerve damage and muscle damage that hindered him from continuing to skate at that level. So that's when he went back to school, and that's how I ended up meeting him. But, through all his connections and Danny's connections, we just had a great group of friends that were all together, that we all had this shared passion, obviously, of skateboarding and growing these businesses. So it just worked out really well.
How serendipitous was that concussion, man? Like, I wonder if he looks back and goes, thank God I hit my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's hard to think like that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, the way it worked.
Yeah, it's funny how, things like that happen in everybody's lives. It's something happens and you maybe take a left turn, but maybe that left turn ends up being a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, tell me about how you guys then transitioned. You're doing the clothing stuff. It wasn't killing it, right? It was doing okay.
Well, I was doing good.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, we were growing every year, probably doubling the business every year. And then we started DC, and DC just blew up and grew so fast. So we said, okay, we'll sell off the rest of all this stuff. Like we sold Dub and Drawers to World Industries.
Dub.
And,
that was it. I remember that.
Yeah, and we had a magazine at one time called Blunt, and sold that to Big Brother. And so it was, luckily we had some smart people around us and said, hey, DC is something really special, so you should focus on that, and that's what we did.
Was it clothing at first, or was it always shoes?
DC started off as shoes.
Okay.
And then grew to kind of everything else, including snowboards. That's how far it's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just shoes in the beginning.
And did anybody have an idea of like, hey, we need to make a better skateboard shoe? Or like, how did that concept even come up?
Well, basically that was, our concept was just to try and improve the skateboard shoe. We thought, why does the skateboard shoe have to be, a dumpy, simple thing? Why can't it be more technical? And back then is when Nike was really making very, very technical basketball shoes. Well, why can't we take performance product? Because if you could make a better thing, think about motocross boots. If the thing's just a lead weight on your foot, you're not going to ride as well. But if the thing works really well on your foot, you're going to ride better. And the same thing with skateboard shoes, basketball shoes, everything. But
that's your one contact point with the board, too, so it's very important.
Right.
Before DC, what was the best skate shoe? A Vans, like a, slip-on? What were you guys? What were you guys skating?
Vans, Etnies, Airwalk, they all made variations of different things. Airwalk actually had the more technical stuff.
Okay.
And so I think that if you were to say the best as far as performance, Airwalk was probably the best. Okay. But we just started doing stuff really smart and innovatively, and that's kind of what helped us take off. And
Sure.
And it was a great mix of great marketing, some of the best skateboarders on the planet.
Yeah, it was
innovative product,
a lot of good
good-looking
things
product.
come together.
Yeah.
My question is, and not trying to sound too personal, but obviously it has to take some capital and some money to build these things. Were you guys just pooling in your own money, or did some come in with more money and other did sweat equity or whatever?
Yeah, the original business started with a $10,000 loan from my parents that I eventually paid back, and then Damon brought in some money, and then we were just not taking any money out. So any profits that we were making, we were just turning back into the company. And then we had a couple distributors, like a Japanese distributor named Charlie, that basically would give us like $100,000 order and then give us all the money up front. So we'd have 6 months to use his money to go make all this product. And then the profit off of that, we would just roll into more business. So it really is the American dream. It was a couple kids.
Yeah, no joke.
Learned at a junior college, just worked our asses off and grew it the best that we could, and surrounded ourselves with the best people that we could, and grew it. And
how did you go about like R&D? Were you like getting skateboarders to come in and give feedback? I mean, were you guys kind of doing that?
I mean, we were all skating at the time, but the guys that worked with us were some of the top skateboarders in the world, and we'd give them a product. Here, tell us what's wrong with it, and they would come back and say, let's change this and that, and tell us feedback too, like, can we improve the leather? And so we would go, I don't know, can we? So we'd go find stronger leather, because it actually existed, but no one had ever asked that question before. So we had varying degrees of like toughness of leather. So it was just stuff like that we were able to look at the market and just think smartly about what we were doing and make a better product.
And again, comes back to marketing. I just feel like DC always did a great job with marketing. Who was that? Who was the guy?
Well, thank you.
I mean, is it you?
I directed all the marketing till about, 2008. So I did all the basic stuff, from laying out all the early ads, and then once we actually had staff, I directed most all that stuff, or hired good people to come in and do all that stuff. But a lot of that was our vision from Damon and myself, coming from skateboarding. Even as we went into motocross, I don't know if you remember, our ads just looked different than everybody else.
They were usually like the first or second page, 2-page, and it was simple but clean.
Yeah. Well, also, too, back in the day, it's like the manufacturers wanted these tight shots of the guys in the air because they wanted to see the Kawasaki logo or whatever. And we're like, nah, step back 50 feet.
You pan way back, and it was like a whole scene.
Yeah, show how dramatic it is. Yeah. Ricky doing this crazy whip over like a gap at Steel City. And we just showcased the art of what it is, how gnarly all the riders and what they're doing. And I think it just struck a chord of, in every sport that we stepped into, that we could have that look in and be able to present it in a better way that resonated with the consumer, as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over that everybody was doing.
Were you a surfer at all, or did Damon surf? Like, because I feel like one of the things you guys did well, you rode, you snowboarded, you skated.
There was a
I don't
connection.
know if you surfed, but you knew the sports intimately.
Yeah.
You understood like how gnarly they were, and you knew what looked cool. Not just a guy doing a wheelie or something, but like Ricky pancaked off a triple. Know, like, that's ridiculous. Yeah. We need to show this, and like, you know what I mean? You understood how to market that.
Yeah, I think it was very important that Damon and I were active and went out and did all these things and grew up doing these things. But we also took a lot of lessons, from skateboarding that we just applied not only to making our own marketing and be very unique in skateboarding, but also go out and apply that mentality to these other sports. And that's why when we came into motocross, we just looked like someone completely different and on a different level. So I really have to credit that mentality of coming from skateboarding. It's really the idea of looking at things just differently, looking at it with an open mind and being creative. And I to this day, I still thank skateboarding in general for that mentality that I got out of it as a kid.
That's awesome. Well, DC started in 94, 95, right?
Yep.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
By the end of 95, you guys were making $7 million a year.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I think it was $7 million in sales. Yeah, for the product.
But you still weren't that old at this time, right? Mid-20s.
Yeah, mid-20s. Yeah.
I mean, were you guys looking at each other going, "Holy shit"?
Yeah, I was going to say,
look what we did.
Was there a time that you went, "I cannot believe what we're doing right now"? Like that's actually panning out. I mean, did you have expectations at that point?
No, and that's why I said earlier. It's like this is the American dream. Like we started off doing this at a very basic level, and it grew and grew. But yeah, once DC started to take off, it's like, holy crap, we're actually now doing really proper business. And it was going like 7 million one year, 14 the next year, 30 the next year.
Exponential growth.
It was just growing like that, and it was
Did
amazing.
you finally start taking a paycheck?
Yeah. Once it made sense,
Yeah.
But those days it was just very cool that we had people like the Beastie Boys to Adam Sandler wearing our stuff.
Yeah. And you could go to all the coolest events and see all the coolest stuff at that time with your shoe involved with it.
Yep. And it was, like I said, it was just a really cool thing to be a part of even in those days, watching these sports grow, watching guys like, Danny and Deerdick grow to what they were, to where Deerdick has huge TV shows on MTV and even working with someone like Ricky and Travis and seeing Travis, do the double backflip live at the X Games. It was just an incredible ride.
Did Rob design some shoes for you guys too, I heard, or something?
Yeah, Rob was actually really influential in the company. He was one of my best friends at the time, still is one of my best friends. I just don't quite see him as often as I used to, but he helped me a lot with marketing. He helped me a lot with different writers. He designed a bunch of different, shoes for us and had his own line and
his own signatures.
He was just instrumental in a part of DC.
He's always been DC'd out. I mean, on his show, he's always got something on. Yeah. Was he an investor? Did he have?
No, he was just a really good friend. Yeah. Like just one of the skateboarders that not only that I clicked with as like a human, but he saw and understood business and marketing.
Yeah.
So some guys, you walk in and I want $10 to go do this. I'm the best ever. I want to be sponsored. But they don't understand what we need in return as a company. Whereas Deerdick's like, okay, what do you need me to do? I need to go shoot an ad. Okay, I'm going to shoot the best photo. I got Blabes. We're going to go do this. He just understood that and how to connect everything together to make the business work. And I mean, you see it today. Like he's one of the most successful probably athletes ever from action sports. If you look at dollar for dollar amount because of where he's ended up with giant contracts from MTV and everything he's done. But it's because how smart he is.
So and that show is pretty freaking hilarious.
Yeah, all the shows are best.
Oh my gosh, ridiculousness.
Everything from Rob and Big to ridiculousness. He's made some incredible content.
Who is a couple of people that you've met, or like you said the Beastie Boys are wearing your stuff, or Adam Sandler? Was there any moment or any person you met or someone that's like wearing your stuff or wanting your stuff? And you're like, wow, caught you off guard.
Yeah.
Outside of our industry.
That's a tough one. We've worked with so many different people. It's been so cool that but I remember how big Lincoln Park was at one time, and like Mike had reached out and said he wanted stuff from us, and it was moments like that just really made things like feel a little bit different because at that time we were so big in skateboarding. And, we were working hard to represent skateboarding and make the shoes and everything as cool as it could possibly be. And then when these outside people from, the Beastie Boys, to Mike Shinoda would come and be like, we want a part of that. We want to work with you guys, and Mike was just such a talented guy, is a talented guy, I should say. And to where he made all the art that went on the box and on the insole. We had a whole signature thing with him that was just super rad because he brought so much talent to the project that it made it really fun for us.
That's cool. So looking down, like you were mentioned, by the end of 95, you guys, $7 million in sales. By 2000, $60 million in sales in 5 years. In 04, you guys ended up selling it to Quicksilver for $87 million. Again, did you and Damon look at each other and just go, holy shit? Like when they slid that offer across the table.
Yeah, it was really, really wild. And we'd gone through some rough times with an old business partner, and by that time too, we'd set up things like if we ever sold, the employees got 10% of the proceeds. And
that's cool.
Yeah, we'd done a lot of stuff like that. So it was just one of those things that, we would have liked to have kept going and doing what we were doing, but someone offers that and you can take all these chips off the table, It's like,
and your timing might not have been any better as well.
Yeah. And
we could debate that, but I think shortly after that, the things changed after the recession.
Yeah, that was a couple of years later. But yeah.
Even Quicksilver themselves.
Oh, yeah. They eventually went bankrupt. When they bought us, it was actually a great time. We had a long 4 or 5 year earn-out after that, so our deal was actually much bigger than what numbers show.
Okay.
But Quicksilver at that time was a great company. The management was great, and we worked with them to go through that time. But yeah, then the recession hit, and they had a bunch of problems, which is really unfortunate. But like I said, American dream. Like we started from meeting in a junior college to growing this big company, making one of the coolest skateboard shoe companies in the world, and then having a surf brand that was actually a Wall Street traded company, by us, was just very, very cool.
In a 10-year period. That is like incredible.
Yeah.
Well, from behalf of us, if you got any great ideas, we're going to chip in $5,000 each. We'll loan you that $10,000. In fact, you don't even have to pay it back.
What are the best and worst things about your time there with DC?
The best times are really working with amazing people, all from, employees to all the great athletes that I worked with. And on that side for me, just being creative.
Yeah.
Like, loving these sports and being able to go out. Like, one time there was a crossover event up in Oregon, and like it was me and Fro and my wife Lucy and our team manager all jumped in a motorhome with a boat and our bikes and drove all the way up there, and going out and riding with Fro and and wakeboarding with him for 2 weeks. Incredible type stuff. So I loved all the personal experiences of working with everybody, but also the creativity from guys like Deerdick to crazy art projects that we did for various different shoes, to even having the DC Mountain Lab here in Park City. It was all just an amazing experience to be able to come up with that stuff, work with, the athletes like Danny Way coming up with the mega ramp and being able to make it happen. And
yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
Literally.
And at the end of the day, we're doing marketing for a brand.
Yeah.
But to be able to do it in a cool and fun way,
it's
that
almost
we
organic.
Liked, Yeah.
You're not sitting there, look at my shoe.
Right.
It's like, look at this. And then people want the shoe.
Right.
Who did we talk about recently that's like, hey, I'm going to the fridge and I'm getting my
Rockstar.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's cracking open a cold Rockstar.
Have you seen they have all their athletes. You have to do a post of you drinking a drink once a week. And
some guys are more creative.
It's really forced, man, and it's just bad marketing.
That's a hard thing to do.
Was there ever any, because I know like Matto was one of your guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever at one of these events where one of your guys is doing something like that, and he did crazy shit, where you're like genuinely scared for their life? Or the mega ramp, like the first time the guys are in that mega
too.
ramp.
There's been a few times I'm like, oh God, I don't want to see this live on TV if it goes wrong.
I was sweating when he did the double backflip. I watched it on TV. I'm like, oh man, please don't go wrong. Just let him get off clean if he doesn't pull.
I remember the worst thing about that is his mom was there, and you're looking at his mom like being worried about shit, there's reality.
TV did a great job of playing it up too.
Yeah.
They were showing her, cutting to him, cutting to the crowd.
Hey, that's the only time I think somebody should have gotten a perfect score at an event X.
I don't think anyone even listened to the score or even looked at it.
It was
at
97.
that point, it was over.
I understand it was 97. He should have
was?
gotten a perfect score, yeah.
Throw the gold medal at him. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, at that point, no one even looked at the score tower. Everyone knew it was over. But there was a part of me that was like, because we were with a group of people, and I was like, if I know Travis, he's going to stomp this. Like, we're all panicking over here, but he's probably the coolest guy at the moment. Like, he's weird like that. He just has that inner belief that he can do it.
Were you ever scared at any point?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You see all this stuff, and you want all this stuff to come together, and working with such talented guys, you see the process and the preparation and the steps to get there. But at the end of the day, it's that one moment that you're trying to get, that they break a record or they do whatever. It's that one moment that is the most dangerous. As
your friend and you're involved with them, I would just imagine there's like
a sense
of not responsibility, but damn it, I don't want to see my friend die right now.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So I can't name anything, specific, but there's always different things that we've done from different big snowboard jumps down to
you guys,
the mega ramp stuff.
Your guys have been involved with like a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Was Matt Hoffman one of your guys?
No, Dave Mira was though.
Oh, Mira.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching a 30 for 30 with Hoffman, and it's showing him hitting this ramp way back in the day, setting records for height out of a quarter pipe, getting towed in with a bike or whatever.
I remember that.
And he's got all this family and camera around, and he eventually slams, gets knocked out, and it's like his kid's there and his wife's crying, and it was heavy. I imagine you guys have probably, I got to imagine at some point you've been there when one of your buddies is slammed and KO'd. And
yeah, that's never fun. But it's part of it. We all accept it. It's like going to a Supercross race.
Yeah.
I was there when Jimmy got hurt, and it's like, you go see him in the hospital, and we all know that that's a potential reality. That's a part of the sport, but it is what it is, I guess.
Was there ever an athlete that you wished you had on your team at that time that it just didn't pan out in any sport? Someone that you're like, dang it, we almost had that guy. I really wanted him, and it didn't work.
Wow, that's a tough one. I can't really actually remember that sort of detail.
Well, when I look, I'm like, he almost had everyone that was cool. So, but I got to imagine this. Usually, people are like, this guy stiffed me, and I wanted him, and then after that, I didn't want him.
The one super random one that comes to mind is we'd almost worked out a deal at one point for Valentino Rossi.
Oh, that would have been sick.
Yeah.
I mean, in Europe, he's a god.
Yeah.
So your DC shoe sales over there at least would have gone.
Yeah, and he's just such a cool guy. I think that he would have fit, because his personality kind of matches, action sports.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, so
that would have been cool.
You sell the company. Were you guys hired to stay on to advise or anything like that?
Damon and I stayed around, I think, 4 or 5 years, and that was part of an earn out. That was a part of the whole deal. And that's 2004 is actually the year I got married, and the year of the first time I ever stepped into a rally car. So it was kind of a big year for me.
So how did that transition go? Because I know the next year you were racing rally, right?
Yeah, well, 2004, Travis was one of our athletes, and he did a couple rallies that year, and it just woke me up to the fact that rally even existed in the States, because I was always a fan of it, but I thought it was a European-only thing. Yeah.
Well, that's huge.
Yeah, exactly.
World Rally Championship.
Exactly. So Travis did a few rallies, and I called Travis's agent, Steve, and I said, hey, how do I do this? I want to go do this with Travis, and that would be really cool for me as the chief brand officer to go out and be able to do this with one of our top athletes. And I just said, I'd like to try it at whatever level I can get into. So I contacted the team that was running the car for Travis, which is a company called Vermont Sports Car, and they flew me out, and I went to a school called Team O'Neill, and I did that for 4 days. And at the end, I got to drive the same car that Travis was driving, and it was just over. I was
rallies. Yeah. We had a chance. We did the Dirtfish school last year, but how much fun did we have?
It was
thoroughly
a ball.
Enjoyed it.
And it was, we didn't do the four-wheel drive cars. We stayed in the rear wheel. They like you to start in that, better for technique or whatever. But by the end, you do sections, and by the end of the 2 days, you're doing the whole course, and they're just like, go.
Mad at
They're telling you, they're pushing it. You know?
they're like, we don't do lap times. Yeah, I'm like, bullshit, we don't.
maybe you don't.
There was a team. What were all these kids from? Like these young kids that
They're
drove.
like Formula 3000, open wheel racing, and they were like, they remind me of young F1 drivers. The hair was done, nice dress, all this.
Rich kids.
We made them look stupid.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing for me, though, and I think you guys might have felt this, is I grew up riding on the dirt. I understand sliding and grip and identifying different looks on the ground and where I can put my wheel to get traction. And so when I jumped in the rally car, I was just like, okay, this is just an application of what I learned most of my life riding a dirt bike.
Yeah.
True.
And so I love
things.
cars and I love dirt biking, and it was just a combination of those two that felt so good to me.
Had you driven much before any of that? Like, did you do any other car racing or?
Not really. I'd done a bit of karting, but just fun stuff. Yeah. But as from being a kid, I just always looked at rally as like that. To me, was like it was dirt biking, but in cars.
Yeah.
Like I respect oval racing, drag racing. Formula One is one of my favorite things, but rally is what I relate to the most when I look at it.
I think that's where your best drivers come from. You go look at history when they do those racer champions. So many times the best overall driver and who would win the overall would be a rally, like a Loeb or someone like him, just better overall in everything.
Who was your favorite rally driver? Like when you first started getting into it?
When I first started watching, it was like the 80s, so it was Ari Vatanen and people like that. But as I really got into it in the 90s, it was Colin McRae. So that person was like the biggest inspiration for me to really love rally. It was his style.
His personality too.
Personality, yeah. It was.
I remember they stuck a mic in one day. He had rolled the car 13 times away through the forest and just cool, with this heavy accent. Things happen.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'd be shitting myself.
Yeah.
Shame. It was unfortunate what happened there.
Yeah. I was actually in that helicopter a couple months before he crashed.
Was that his helicopter?
Yeah, it was his helicopter. He would land right at his house.
And his son was with him, right?
Yeah, and
that's terrible.
another friend or two and their kids. It was tragic.
Very tragic. Yeah.
But it was cool for me to go from him being one of the biggest inspirations of why I was in the sport and then eventually become friends with him and good friends. And then be able to go out and learn from him and hang out with him. And it was just dream come true type stuff. You know?
When you went back east to drive that rally car for the first time, were you good right away? Did you impress that team or?
Yeah, I was good. Yeah. And it was just like it was an application of things I'd dreamt about for so long, and from all my dirt bike skills just all rolled into one. And by the end I was going quite quick, and I just wanted to go and go more. When I left that school, I was like, oh, God, how do I do this again?
I'm in 100%.
Yeah. So so that was 2004, and 2005 was my first year that racing. So I was like, yep, doing this. Go out and set up a privateer sort of thing with the team that was running Travis's car. Just paid it all myself and went out and raced, and ended up. That was Travis's first full season too, and he and I both had a bunch of crashes, and it was really fun. And
it was really fun.
But I ended up beating him that
Did you
season.
Really? Rookie of the year the first year, right?
Yeah.
You guys were trading off stages and rallies. You guys were back and forth with the wins. It seemed like.
Yeah, he has so much skill, and it's so great to be around him. And I was a bit more wild with it, which is
hard to.
You're more wild than Pastrana.
Yeah. Well, he was the one that was expected to win.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So I would take more risk and have more fun with it, and so the first year I ended up beating him in the points, and then from there on out he pretty much beat me. But I looked at it more as he was the top name athlete, and I was there as the support guy, and I was just going for it. I was having a good time, and I didn't care if I ended up second in the championship, really. Of course, it meant a lot to me to try and win, but it was great because especially he was still a DC guy at that point, and I was still helping promote him and make the shoes and all that stuff. So it was great to really push him through the DC thing as a driving athlete.
Yeah.
So it was an incredible time. I look back in those years now, and it was insane. It was me and Travis and this team with a great set of guys behind us as a team, and we were racing some other guys like Tanner Faust. That they had a great team, and it was just incredible for a small national championship. We just had these big names and cool cars, and it was a really fun time.
At that time, what does a car like that cost?
Basically, the category of car is what's called a Group N car, and we were running, because of the way the U.S. rules work, it's a slightly modified, slightly faster Group N car, and they roughly run probably about $300,000.
Yeah, they used to have the Group N in South Africa, but I think they've gone to more of a smaller spec class now.
Yeah.
So you can wad up 300,000 pretty easily.
Yeah. And when that happens,
What do you mean you can? He's done it.
yeah. And not everything's a write-off. Like the shell may be a write-off, but there's so many parts to the engine that
it's not like the rental car company where they roll up with another one for you.
No.
Well, but a lot of these cars are designed that'll be a weak point. So if you smash something in there, that'll break instead of ripping everything off. So you sometimes look, and then it's like you said, some fiberglass replacements and a couple A-arms or whatever, and you're like, it's not as bad as it maybe originally looked.
Yeah.
Were you always looking to World Rally, or was that were you ever even thinking that far out?
No, not at all. Not in the even slightest bit in the sense of that. It was just,
it's more about fun.
Yeah, it was more just having fun and experiencing something new, and I didn't even look at that time. I didn't even look at it as like a career. I had just had this incredible career building DC shoes, selling it and moving on, and I didn't know what the future really meant, and I just started it as a hobby, and I was just already naturally good at it. So I'm like, well, I've been around all these guys from Travis to Ricky to Danny to Travis Rice. I've seen how they trained. I know who they train with. I know what they go through mentally. I'm like, I can pick off little pieces of this and make myself better, know the steps to get better. So why not try it? So I just trained harder, trained better. I had like Rhino for a trainer for a bunch of years. And we just used the process that we knew from all these other sports and people to really try and get myself to whatever level. And back then I'm like, who knows where this could go? Yeah. I could turn out to suck after a couple of years, or it could go on. But I said, I might as well put my best foot forward. And I got the time now, and I really genuinely love it. So let's do this.
Yeah. That's the key right there, right? You loved it. It's not like getting up and punching in to go to work.
Right. And the thing is, like, I started at 37, and, most of the Sebastian Loebs and Petter Solbergs of the world start karting at 9. Yeah.
The minute they can touch the pedals, they're out there.
So to me, starting at 37, everything was an upside. Like I had no expectations of where this might go.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Even if you say, I've got 3-4 years, that's still a lot to try and accumulate in that short period of time.
And the good thing for me, too, with being older and with so much more experience, like I could walk into rooms with organizers, like the people that run Rally America, and be like, hey, let's try and do things this way. Because coming from a company, I know what the companies need. We need to get more marketing. We need to get more exposure, whatever. I was able to put things together to really help the sport and help move things forward. And that was enjoyable for me because and you guys grew up in motocross. You genuinely love motocross, right?
Yeah.
So do I. But like for me, rally was now this new part of my life, and I genuinely loved it. And like, how can I help? How can I help move this forward? How can I... when it came up like X Games, we were like, Travis and I together were like, how can we make this happen?
I figured it had to be you guys to get it in there because I was like, who else has that sort of horsepower?
Well, we were a big part of it because they saw the draw of it. You know what I mean?
Well, the cool thing that I remember, like I talked to you earlier, like with Global Rallycross and that, when you would see the lineup, it was like he's a European rally champion and he's a US rally champion. He's an X Game gold medalist. He was a freestyler. He was a skater. He was and these were all legends that were able to come back and be able to battle on one racetrack. And I think as a fan, it's kind of cool to see those walks of life come together.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's the kind of funny thing for me to see the smile on the faces of guys like Jeff Ward.
I forgot Wardy.
And like it is, now that you guys have been in it, it really is one of the funnest ways to drive a car, you know?
Sure.
Especially when it's 600 horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds off the start line.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I loved watching you guys at the start, the popping.
So it was.
They would shift quick too.
Yeah, it's genuinely one of the funnest ways, like I said, to race a car. So it was cool to be around all those guys, compete against them, and be able to win, go out there and win in these events. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, like that thing right there on the wall, that's Racing X Games, downtown LA. I finished on 3 tires, and I was second only to Sebastian Loeb, the winningest rally driver of all time.
9-time world champ?
Yeah, 9-time world champ. So to be able to share a podium with him, I was never anywhere near his level in the WRC, but in Rallycross I was. So it was cool.
You could argue, well, he's probably got to go down as one of the greatest drivers in the history of motor racing.
And I actually out-qualified him in that event. I just didn't have as good of an event. So,
hey, who cares? Just keep that piece of paper, frame it, and put it up there.
How many cars do you think you've gone through at this point, rally cars and everything else?
I don't even know. I mean, you mean by crashing them or just by driving them?
Yes. All the above.
I think in my whole career, I've had 2 crashes where it was bad enough for the shell to be a
just to be
write-off.
gone. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean I've driven so many different cars because like if I were to go drive, like a couple of years ago I did one WRC event and it was Spain, and so that sort of thing, it's just a rental basically.
You just use a car from over there.
M Sport already
Catalunya?
has these.
Was it Catalunya?
Yeah, Catalunya. So M Sport has these cars that they're meant for privateers that come in to pay to do 1 or 2 events, that sort of thing. So I've driven lots of different cars all over the world, plus I have my own team cars, and even the 2 cars that were write-off weren't even ours. Actually, one was, and one was an old team's car. So, but like I said, it takes a lot to really. Yeah. It's usually the ones where it's a complete write-off is when they burn to the ground because nothing is usable, you know. And so
Well, I got a question about that. We'll get to that. Okay. I saw a video. It scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
But I want to go back. So in 2010, you did with Monster, you put together a World Rally team.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
so what made you decide to go do that? Was that just the next step? Or?
Well, I'd driven as a privateer with that same team that Travis was on for like 4 or 5 years. And Travis was the number 1 driver. He was the one that was getting paid, all that sort of stuff. And I was still paying. You know, I was bringing in sponsors. And, like, I'd built so much exposure and everything through social media that my value as a driver had just come up. And so that company, which was Subaru, just wasn't willing to, you know, pay for what I was doing. And Ford came along and said, hey, we see a great value with this. We have cars from some of the winningest rallycross cars to, you know, a top-level WRC car. And so it just worked out to be a great program for me and a great switch. So that's why I left that former team, Vermont Sports Car, hired all the people in-house for me here, and started what at that time was the Monster World Rally Team, which eventually just turned into Hoonigan Racing. But that was a great start with me for Ford. You know, that was right as we were really starting to do the Gymkhana videos. So the third year of doing that was then when I started with Ford, which was Gymkhana 3.
Okay.
So by then things were really starting to get serious. I was going from someone that was bringing in some sponsorship but still having to pay some of my own money to go out and race and do these things to now a full-fledged team that was even starting to dip into racing in the World Rally Championship.
And so how did it go? First of all, how did it go in the World Rally? That's a different animal?
Yeah, at that time, I mean, I was doing the Gymkhana videos, Gymkhana racing Rallycross, still racing here in America, and I think I did 7 events that first year in the WRC in the Ford Focus. And it was a struggle. We knew it was going to be a struggle.
Why?
Well, because when you start racing in WRC, typically most of the drivers come up through a system. Like in motocross, you start in the lights. And most riders, unless your name's, Cincerello or Faulkner's, those guys that come in and win the first year, most of the guys that comes in, it takes a couple of years, right? Well, they're getting to know, the dirt in St. Louis is tacky, it's kind of crappy and whatever. But same with the Nationals. You go to the
the secret
you go
lines,
to Washougal and like by the couple years in, then you are one of the top riders, right?
Okay.
Same with the WRC. The minute you enter that, you have to go start writing your own notes in those events. And you only get 2 passes to write notes. And then you're racing the greatest drivers in the world on 2 passes on these notes, where they've been doing it for years. I mean, by the time I started racing in the WRC, Matthew Wilson, who was a mid-pack guy, great guy, but he was always a 5th, 7th, 9th. He had more WRC races completed than I'd ever done rallies in my entire career. But that's what it takes to be fast at that top level.
What does that mean, passes? What does that mean?
Well, 2 passes. So they block off these roads that you're going to race on, and you do 2 passes, 2 drives down these roads, and you write the notes, like 100 meters.
During that,
hairpin right. You know what I mean?
Well, how does that work? Is your co-driver with you, and you're telling him what to ride, or he's...
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm driving down the road. I'm like,
are you going slow? Are you guys cruising?
Yeah, 35 miles an hour. I think the typical WRC stage, the speed limit's 45.
So is a 1 or a 2 for one guy different than a 1 or a 2 for another guy?
Yeah, there's a couple different systems. The system I use is a 1 through 6. 6 being like a corner you wouldn't lift for.
Wide
1
open.
being a hairpin.
Yeah.
So, if you think about it as gearing, like
One right
1 would be
over
a first
hill,
gear,
through the fence, left, down the
Yeah. And so it just takes years to be able to do that. And the original plan for me was a 3-year program with a second driver, so that the pressure would be off me. I could get 3 years to get all the notes and get everything going. And a particular sponsor had said, yeah, we'll do that. We'll fund that whole thing. And at the 12th hour, they'd said, no, we're not going to do that, pulled back. So I ended up having to do this more abbreviated program. And it is what it is. I got the opportunity to go race in the WRC against arguably some of the greatest drivers on the planet.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get it to do it to the way that would have put me in the right position, but I got to go do it.
Yeah.
And so I struggled the first year. Second year, I went out and did 9 events, and I did better. Had a couple top 5 stage finishes, but I always seemed to have some bad luck or just, make some mistakes. And then after that, I scaled back a bit. But
it's like you said, that the guys that are winning have done it since they were kids. I mean, we talked a little bit about Reed. He's wanting to go to car racing, and I said, man, the odds aren't in his favor. No motocross guys ever just switched over and had success.
Yeah.
Even Travis, like when he goes to world rallies, is he winning those? So I mean, it's hard. You can't just jump into the most elite level of that type of racing.
If you can do it right, if you can do the program, like I said, 3 years to get there. Do it with the right training, the right exposure, and what I mean by that is like there's even guys that say if I had that 7-event program, I should have actually gone to the other events where I knew I might have been racing the other in writing those notes, because you can do that.
Oh, you can.
But I just didn't have time. I had kids. I have a wife. I have businesses. That's one problem with starting later in life is. There's young kids today. Oliver Solberg, young kid, still lives at home. No overhead, no bills,
no responsibilities.
Right,
one-track mind.
Right, one-track mind. All he does is race. And when he's at home,
girls.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it is what it is. I accepted not only the positives, but the negatives that go along with that, and just put my head down and did the best job that I could.
Okay, so during that time, everything was kind of overlapping. You had started Gymkhana stuff.
Yeah.
Did those take off right away, or did that kind of build?
The first video I did, it's just called Gymkhana Practice, Testing and Practice. That video was, YouTube wasn't even big at that time. It was there, but it wasn't what it is today.
Was that at Irvine and the Blimp Hangers?
It's in Irvine at a airfield called El Toro.
The old El Toro.
Right, but the airplane hangars are close to there, but a little bit away.
Oh, so you combine that together? Is that how you did it?
No, I wasn't in a blimp hangar. There was a hangar there.
Hey, that's where Tanner and Greg Tracy practiced the loop too, right there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Right there, yeah.
So anyway, that video, when we were done, we actually put it on my personal website. Like I had a video player on my personal website. Today YouTube is the standard for most everybody. Yeah. Back then it wasn't. Like you had videos on your own website. That's what we did. We put it on there, and it was a big file. Like it was really high res, and like I got a call after a couple days. They're like, hey, there's been like 1 million downloads of this video, and you've already exceeded your monthly limit for data, for the website. Right? And they're like, we think that this might be like 10 grand for this month if we leave this video on here.
That you had to pay for it?
Yeah. Oh, shit. Just for the data of the other way around. Yeah. And I called the sponsors, and like they said, okay, yeah, we'll fund that, because back then viral videos, that was a new thing,
Yeah.
And all my sponsors were like, we're getting millions of views on this with our logo on it. Hell yeah, let's keep this going. So we left it on my site for like a month. So it got like 10 million views that first month on my site, and then after that, nobody wanted to pay. I'm like, okay, we'll just put it on YouTube, and it just continued to grow and got like 100 million views.
What did you make this word up? What the hell is this word?
The word actually, it's a grassroots style of motorsport, and the word Gymkhana actually it's like a technical horse term, like a technical horse racing.
Okay.
And so somebody, I think in Japan, adopted it for a more technical style of autocross.
Okay.
And autocross is just like a grassroots motorsport where you set up cones in a parking lot, and people will drive through and get a time.
They do that at Qualcomm.
Yeah, exactly.
They do
They do it at like Angel Stadium.
Yeah, they do all over the place.
But they take these big parking lots, especially like, big stadium parking lots, and do this. So I had actually done one of those just as training. There was somebody that did a Gymkhana series in Southern California. I was like, I want to learn how to slide my car on tarmac, my rally car, because all the racing we were doing in America, it's all gravel. Mm-hmm. But I grew up watching my heroes slide these cars around on tarmac. I wanted to learn how to slide a rally car on tarmac. So I did one of these Gymkhana. I think the series was called Gymkhana USA. So I did one, and I was like, holy crap, this is fun. I like this, So I built a car specifically to go do those events. And when the car was done, the guy that was doing that little series just got tired of it and quit doing it. So I had this really cool car and nothing to do with it. And I just thought, I'll go back to that same place that I did that event and just film something fun. And I went and shot one day. And like a couple weeks later, I saw the footage. I was like, holy crap, this is really cool. Like, as a fan of that style of driving, I thought, wow, this is fun.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to see like how close you were to the walls coming out.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the same video.
Yeah.
But even doing the mobile donuts around the dude on the Segway, and that's a lot of car control. To watch it's fun as well. I mean, I could only imagine doing
sliding in the K-rail when he made the square. Originally, you had the square in the K-rail too, right?
Yeah.
And you were doing the donuts in there.
Well, the funny thing about that is, like, I shot for one day, and we looked at the footage. We're like, wow, this has a lot of potential. So I went back and shot a second day because we saw the potential in how it looked and how it went together, but we didn't design it all to go together like that in the beginning.
Okay, because that was a question of mine. I'm like, that choreography was phenomenal.
Yeah. So we went back and filled in some pieces and reshot a few things. So it was 2 days of shooting, and like I showed the head guy, Nick Adcock, that was running DC at the time for us. I was like, hey, do you like this? Do you think it would fit on the DC site? Can I put a DC logo on it? I really liked it, but I didn't know if he thought it would be appropriate for DC, because we're a skate company. And he's like, holy shit, this is insane. Yeah, you can put a DC logo on that. So it really was something that just came really naturally. It was me and just a couple guys that shot it and put it together. And it was shot like to me, it was like a skateboard film. It was like skateboard parts for skateboarders. They may try, one trick 30 times, okay, and they got that, and then they'll put it with another trick that took them 10 tries to put together, and they'll put this part together.
They edit it together like they just knocked out from one to the other.
Right. Yeah. So I was basically doing that, but I was able to link things together like it was a race course.
Yeah.
But the inspiration came from skateboarding, like a skateboard part. So that's the way the whole thing came together, and that was kind of my vision. And even the way that we shot it, I was like, I don't want to cheat anything. This is all real action. Let's get these angles as if we're skateboarding. Like, you have to show it in the most honest angle. So that was the whole mindset behind it. And then when we launched it and it received kind of the, the praise that it received and the views, like, we're like, shit, this works. I'm glad people like this as much as we like it.
Did you think it would do that? Like, when you watch it, you're like, this is going to be huge, or you're like, man, I hope people think this is as cool as I do?
No, I mean, I thought maybe at that time we were trying to make cool content for DC that we thought would kind of make us stand out from everybody else that made car content. So we thought, I might do like 500,000 views or something, but we had no idea that it would do 100 million. It's
insane, the numbers on all those videos. When you go watch, and
it blows me away.
Yeah,
shit,
it's crazy.
Yeah, the fact that like I get paid to go do this stuff in cities like San Francisco, like. Open their arms and like, oh, you want the bridge too? Like, sure, have the bridge. Like, like we didn't even think we could get the Bay Bridge, and they offered it to us. So
who does that? You just did one at China, the Tiananmen Road. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Which looked incredible, by the way. The site itself, like, I want to go there just to go up those stairs and stand through that thing. It looked amazing. And then they obviously had to shut the whole road off. I'm thinking, who's the guy on your team that calls China and says, hey, we want you to close this whole road. We want to do burnouts all the way up this thing. And at one point, you clipped something and knocked it off the edge of the corner. I was like, oh, God, if they see that, they're going to cut his hands off. I mean, like, were they easy to work with?
Well, it started off at the beginning as like a small crew of like basically very simple filmers. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I was using people that we knew from our industries. But later on, like, I think when we did Gymkhana 4, that's when we actually hired some real production people, Hollywood production people, because we needed some really good effects. We were on one of the Hollywood lots doing all this stuff, and we needed some real effects. So we hired another level up of production company. And they had, the director, Ben, had real location scouts. Now we were using real Hollywood people, real art directors, all that sort of stuff. And that's when things just started to escalate. So the guy that actually helped us with the scouting and permits and everything for Gymkhana 4 was then helping us with Gymkhana 5, and he had just scouted San Francisco for one of like the Marvel films.
Okay.
Right? I think it was like Iron Man 3 that they eventually went to, I think, Miami or somewhere to actually film. He's like, hey, I've got these locations. We'd actually checked out something outside the city, didn't like it. We're coming back in the city, and he's like, hey, let me show you these spots in San Francisco. And we just laughed. We thought, there's no way they're going to let us do this, hooning on the streets of San Francisco. And he's like, no, we can do it. Let me show you the spots, and then you can tell me what more you want, and I'll see if I can work it out. So we did that, and he ended up getting everything that we wanted. And that guy was so good, he actually won an award for Gymkhana 5.
Is that right?
For the scouting.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So,
I mean, I just don't see that being a small feat. Going to the San Francisco City Board or whoever you go to and going, hey, we want to shut all this down. Our guy's going to leave skid marks all over the streets.
Over that twistiest road in the world. We're going
to that's not an easy sell.
No, and to tell you the truth, I think it's a little easier than you think it is, because places like San Francisco have a film commission that does this all the time.
Really?
And they have a police staff that knows and understands doing that also. So if you go to some random small city that doesn't do that stuff all the time, you'd be talking gibberish to them. Hey, we want to shut down. They'd be like, I don't know how to do that. But San Francisco, it's like, oh, yeah. Oh, you want the financial district? Yeah, we'll do that on Saturday morning when nobody's in there, and we need 3 cops. We'll shut it off this way.
In China, do they require you use some of their production people in China? Is that like a law or something?
Yes, that got fairly complicated. Yeah, like all the drone work, because it's a national park type thing. Like, we couldn't have our guys fly the drones. We actually had to hire Chinese nationals to fly the drones, and it was actually quite difficult, because all the drone work that's in Gymkhana 2, like, my director of photography, Pierre, had to oversee them the full time to get what he wanted out of it. Yeah. But it is what it is.
Well, yeah, it's incredible what you guys have done with all that. So while that's going on, you talk about the challenges. There's too much stuff going on. You're trying to race World Rally. You've started these Gymkhana videos, which are going through the roof. When did you kind of switch over to this Hoonigan thing? And tell us about how that kind of came about.
Well, I'll tell you, like I was very lucky to do DC and everything that we did with DC. And when the first Gymkhana video came out, we sold like, my team T-shirt, Monster logo on the front and all the other sponsors. And it was kind of something new, like for Zoomies and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, when that video hit and it was so popular and that shirt happened to be in the store, we sold like 200,000 of those shirts.
I had heard that's the highest selling shirt at, maybe it was Zoomies. I thought it was like PacSun or Tilly's.
Yeah, it was like mind blowing to me. And like we were, like the whole thing was just kind of crazy. And DC was having a lot of success with it, but it was a bit odd for DC. And because I just have such a marketing mind, I'm doing so much stuff with me and Travis that it's kind of overshadowing some of the stuff that DC is really known for skateboarding and snowboarding. So over time, DC wanted to scale all that stuff back because it was such good marketing and done so well that they wanted to go back to really pushing skateboarding, which made total sense to me. Like I just had too many ideas for what DC was capable of. So that's how Hoonigan got started. I needed this outlet to be able to make the team gear, make cool posters, do all the marketing, and take some of these marketing ideas and be able to work with Ford or Monster or Toyo and then make those projects happen. And DC liked it in the beginning, but as time went on, it just didn't make sense.
You could see that where it's eclipsing what their athletes are doing, their core athletes in surf, skate, snow, right?
That's I felt kind of bad in certain ways. Like I'm doing stuff that's getting 100 million views, right? But I'm the founder of this company, and the skateboarders just aren't getting that sort of exposure, And
no one is.
And it made sense to me to kind of go and do something different. They wanted to scale it back, and I just said, look, I get it, and I actually want to do more, but it makes sense to have it in a brand that's designed around that,
Yeah. So was it you again, the marketing genius over here, that came up with the name? Because I didn't know what the hell Hoon meant.
Yeah, well, the term Hoon is actually from San Francisco. San Francisco. It's from Australia. It's actually a negative term. It's as if you get pulled over here for doing reckless driving, which reckless driving to you, right? That's not a good thing to happen, right? You don't want a reckless driving ticket. Well, down there, it's the same thing. You get pulled over and you're in trouble. It's a Hoon ticket. The cops call it a Hoon ticket. Yeah. Right, you're hooning. That's their term for being reckless in a car.
You're hooning in your ute.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened was we took that, well, not we, the U.S. journalists took it on as like a term of you're having fun with a car. So they started calling me the king of the Hoons. So I thought, oh, wow, so we started adopting that word more. We're like, oh, wow, that actually fits what we do fairly well. Even though there's this negative connotation down in Australia, for us it kind of defined that we're doing something different in motorsports. I'm a race car driver, but we're having fun with the car. That wasn't really a concept so much before. In motocross, you understand that you go to the track, you do your laps, but fuck, look at that triple. I can transfer from there over to there. Yeah. Like, people in motorsports don't think that way typically, and that's what we were doing. I couldn't wait to take the car out from the race and go do something fun with it, because I come from that skateboarding mindset that look at this rad tool that I have. Think if you your rad tool, you could only race or you could only ride your skateboard in a contest. That's the way racing cars is. And I'm like, no. Bring that over here. I want to go slide around through that parking lot or through that city street or whatever. And
no, it's brilliant. It's like what Pastrana did. He showed that you don't have to just be a racer.
Yeah.
Watch, I can go do X Games. I can go do all of these things, and he's eclipsed.
We've said it many times. He's way more popular now with all the other things he's done on the side than ever as a motocross
than any racer, really.
Yeah.
So you've taken the same thing. There may even be car racers who are pissed.
Yeah. So there's this word Hoon that means basically that, having fun with the car. And so we were looking for a company name, and I'm just like, well, there's Hooligans. I mean, has a certain word and connotation, but we're we like the Hoons, so we would be the Hoonigans, you know?
Dude, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I heard about that, I said he blended Hoon and Hooligan.
Yeah.
It's freaking brilliant.
What you said was
this guy is like a marketing.
That's a good question. Did you ever find from racers that there's some negativity from what you're doing?
Most of the negativity I experience is either like journalists that don't get it, right? Because they're just used to writing about racing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Or
Purists.
there's fans that look at the popularity of what I do and how I do things and say, "Oh, he's not the best in the world at racing, so who gives a crap about him?" Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really the only negativity. Most every race car driver I ever meet, from Jenson Button or Fernando Alonso to Lewis Hamilton. Like Lewis Hamilton's like, man, I want to drive your Mustang. You know, like those guys, they all, because most race car drivers are stuck in this rut. Like I got to chase sponsorship. I got to get on the right team. I got to go race. I got to go prep for the races. It's all just about the racing, but they see what I do and they're like, damn it, how'd you turn this into fun? You know? Like,
Well, shit, the F1 drivers look miserable most of the time, and it's like because they're just like computerized, program to go and
But you
break lap
again
records.
stole a page out of like surf, skate, snow, moto even. Mm-hmm. And the guys who went and did freestyle, they went and did just free riding.
Yeah.
Or, guys that'll go, Travis Rice, I mean, he's doing that, right? He's just going snowboarding up in Alaska, making videos and getting paid.
Yep.
It's like I'm doing what I love to do and making money doing it.
Twitch, like we said,
Twitch now. He's killing it.
Yeah.
So, the thing with all that, though, is like I've never claimed to be the best driver in the world. I've never raced and won the world championship, but I probably have more fun than those guys. and I am quite good. I race at quite a high level when I am in a serious competition, but that's one of the complaints that we hear sometimes. Like, oh, why is this guy so popular? He's never won the World Rally Championship. It's like, okay, well, if you put in perspective when I started, what I've done, I've actually pretty proud of what I've been able to do at the age that I've been able to do.
Well, you earned it, your fan base. You didn't purchase it, you created it. I mean, you can't take that away from anyone.
And your numbers, the numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah, and that's something like if you... I feel like you mentioned Travis, and
he's not nearly as popular as you are, by the way. Just remember that, Travis. Have a slice of humble pie.
Well, Travis came before me doing, and a lot of other guys too, but Travis is a perfect example where he was such a talented racer, made it so far, but the things that he's done outside of racing has really made him
who he is.
Who he is, why he's that popular to the fans.
Yeah.
And he felt stuck in racing because that was his whole deal. He just didn't want to be pigeonholed into that only.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, he looks at that bike as a giant toy. And if all you get to do with it is race, he's disappointed. He wants to, I still have this vivid memory of that year that he was going into the Supercross season. I think it was first or second year, 250.
Up at Castillo Ranch.
And then he jumped over the fence and hurt his knee, and it's like, he couldn't help himself. He couldn't. He shouldn't have been doing that. It was a dumb jump.
Have you seen the jump? It's the dumbest. I'm like, even if it went perfectly,
where were you going?
You're going to land into an uphill. It wasn't going to be fun.
Right.
But he just, I could do it.
I think he was trying to get to the top of the hill, and it just dug the pegs.
Well, anyway.
But I'm the same way. I'm like, how can I figure out how to slide
skateboard
up this
analogy
mountain?
is great because you're right. If it was like, okay, the only time you can ride the skateboard is in a vert contest, or, I mean, that's like the opposite of what a skateboard stands for, like freedom and expression, and you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I'll tell you this: I'm not a huge car guy. I didn't know Sebastian Loeb's name until I started prepping for the show, and I'm like, oh, this dude's won a lot. He must be pretty good. But I've seen all your Gymkhana videos. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I think
I don't know. You'd have to do a global sampling, but I would guess your name is likely more popular than his. Like more people would know you from what you've done.
Well, for sure in the U.S. For sure in the U.S.
Yeah, Rally's bigger. I don't know. Like I said,
yeah, for sure in the U.S. and potentially even around the world. And I mean, I like Sebastian. He's an incredibly talented guy. He's incredible to watch. But he's in a championship where you're subject to how the championship covers you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just took myself in the car out of it and delivered to the fans what I thought the fans wanted to see.
I think I saw him do something fun. Didn't he dress up like an old man and drive somebody around in the car?
You're thinking of Petter Solberg.
Oh, that's that's right.
But Petter's another great one, though. But Petter's actually one that's actually transferred that popularity of what he does more outside of racing, too, because he's done stuff like that.
Yeah.
That would be funny to put him in an Uber.
They did. No, they did. That's what he did.
Didn't Loeb do Pikes Peak?
Loeb. He had the record. He had the record. He crushed the record at one point.
No, he crushed it so bad.
Yeah. And now another company's come in with electric car and beat it. But
I'm friends with Greg Tracy. I'm pretty good friends with that guy.
Yeah.
So. He did electric car and stuff up there a couple times.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with that mountain, Loeb was the last one to take a combustion engine up that road, and the budgets to do what they did was just huge. And they put the best driver in the world for that condition in the best car in the world, which is a rally style tarmac car, and just crushed everybody.
That was pretty fun.
But then someone else came along with a Volkswagen.
What was his name again?
Sorry,
I know he does like IMSA racing now. Drawing a blank on him.
Yeah,
but he had just broken the record.
The guy who beat the record.
Yeah, but they did it with an electric car, which the electric car isn't impacted by the oxygen levels of being at altitude. So I don't think a combustion engine will ever beat an electric car again up that mountain.
I'm surprised they don't separate those in classes.
Well, it's not about the event win, it's about the record. You're going from point A to point B, and for years the record was right at 10 minutes.
Monster did it in that I forgot his name, but he's the Japanese guy.
Yeah, Monster Tsujima.
Yeah, he had the specially built Pikes Peak car.
Yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah. So it's just a point A to point B thing, and at one point it was at 10 minutes, and then a couple guys started dropping below 9, and then Loeb was in the 8s, and I think now
757.
Yeah, 757 is the electric car. Yeah, so there's different people that win every year, but it's that year, but it's the overall record that everybody tries to get.
That's crazy. Hey, we're going to take a quick timeout. This is your Trolley Designs timeout. Take a break. We'll be right back with more Ken Block.
At Nihilo Concepts, we have a passion for innovation and for motocross. Our mission is to develop parts that will improve the durability, functionality, and the appearance of your motorcycle. We're proud to say that everything from Nihilo is made in the USA in our state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Stuart, Florida. Whether you race every weekend or you just ride for fun, Nihilo offers high-quality, innovative parts that you just won't find anywhere else. Nihilo offers custom engraved engine covers, one-piece titanium foot pegs, brake tips, internal engine components, specialty tools, frame grip tape, carbon fiber components, and so much more. Check out our website, NihiloConcepts.com, and see for yourself why teams like Red Bull KTM, Rockstar Husqvarna, Troy Lee Designs, and some of the fastest riders in the world choose Nihilo Concepts. NihiloConcepts.com.
I see the sunrise, I wake up in the morning feeling so nice. I burn a couple bowls of the alright. I look out to the world and it's all mine, yeah, it's all mine. I see palm trees and joints, kids smoke palm trees like ointment. My weed breath is fresh cause I keep my appointments. Now I can finally see, like I smoke some DMT. What you think we should sound like, what you think we do at night. Cause we the best of this shit, we made a mess of of this shit. We wreck the rest of all the Wester with the recklessness. If you's a bitch, you might get snatched up like some necklaces. This where the rest of us live. You say we feel like the West Coast. I say we sound like the best stuff.
All right, welcome back. That's the Troy Lee Designs timeout. Get over there to troyleedesigns.com. Check out all the new moto gear. They've got a brand new D4 downhill mountain bike helmet. The latest offering from those guys. If you're into bicycling, it is downhill mountain bike season for those who are interested in that. And
by the way, I love that helmet.
The helmet's legit.
I use it for downhill mountain biking, snowmobiling, and in my Can-Am. Less in my snowmobile nowadays, but man, it's such a great, versatile helmet.
Yeah, the problem with a lot of those older ones is you felt suffocated a little bit when you started breathing hard. But this thing is so open, it's light, it's comfortable.
I mean, anytime something that beautiful is made out of carbon fiber, like I just get stoked on carbon fiber.
I went on a dual sport ride with Mike Metzger, and he was wearing one. Yeah. And I'm like, we're on some pretty sketchy spots, and I'm like, I don't know, Metz. Maybe you should just put a moto helmet back on, Visor, no visor, I don't care.
Yeah.
Anyway. Awesome helmet. Check those guys out. Also, as is our usual routine here, Fire Department Coffee's got us a mug and a bag of their brand new skull-crushing espresso. That's for you, Mr. Ken Block.
Thank you.
Leave that for you for here. I appreciate you having us in, and I hope you can use that with the fam. Coffee drinkers?
It'll be here.
Okay. All right.
Lots of coffee drinkers here, along with Monster.
All right. Jumping back in. I saw that you got Pastrana tapped to do the next Gymkhana video.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I've been doing it for so long, and I still enjoy doing it. But we have actually wanted to do some different things with Travis. And even at the end of Gymkhana 10, he gets in my truck, my Ford F-150 Hoonigan truck, and drives away.
I saw that.
And that was actually leading into another concept that we were going to do for another Gymkhana Files. But business is business. We have all sorts of ideas and try and pitch Amazon and Netflix and all these different companies. And if they don't buy it, well, crap. No,
yeah.
We have to figure something else out. But it's always been great working with Travis, and he's wanted to do one of those with us for a long time. And he's always... I have kind of my box that I do things in, that I keep things all a certain way, and he's always a bit over here going this way, more of a Nitro Circus Travis flavor. So it's going to be cool to have him, take on that project this year and do it. Doesn't mean I'm not doing stuff. I'm still doing stuff, and we're putting out tomorrow on my YouTube channel the Gymkhana Files, which is the making of Gymkhana 2. So we're still delivering lots of rad Gymkhana type content with me for my fans, but it's great to have Travis come into Hoonigan and use my whole crew to go out and make a project.
So are you guys building the car?
No, the team that he races for is building the car and doing all that, but my team at Hoonigan is doing all the production. So the same guys that, did Gymkhana 10 with me, that did Gymkhana 2 the last year, that whole crew of shooters, director Brian Scotto, they're all doing it.
How do you come up with all these, like in LA you're going under the low riders that are bouncing and stuff? I mean, do you guys have a team of guys that are just kind of sitting around?
We just come up with the dumbest ideas we can and see what sticks. There's only so much I could do with a car. I can't kickflip it, so we got to think of all this fun stuff to do with it that works, and everything from, drift jumping it like in San Francisco to, I tried to do donuts around Travis because I knew, growing up, I had friends that could do the slowest wheelies. So I was like, Travis, can you do a wheelie? He's like, yeah, no problem. So he comes in, and it was after he crushed his ankle. Remember that? And he had years at X Games when he did it was like a flip to a 360 thing, right? And landed on the ankle and broke it. And so he comes to do like Gymkhana 5 with me, and he couldn't control his foot like he should have. So he couldn't do the real simple stand-up slow wheelie for me to go around. So anyway, it really is like we come up with all these ideas to try and in a sense, do similar type tricks with the car because there's only so much I can do with the car, but make really fun, like creative moments in these videos that are fun to watch. You know, that's our goal, is to make fun eye candy that people enjoy to watch.
Yeah, it's neat to see when you interact with someone else doing something. You know what I mean? Where your timing, you have to be working in unison somehow. Like that's really impressive to me. I'm anxious to see someone else do it though, because I've watched all yours. And I don't know, are you just that technically good? You're using your style of driving, or I got to imagine everybody has their own kind of look or technique.
Right. Well,
so what's his going to be? Is he going to be, I don't know. You know what I mean?
He's going to backflip the car.
Well,
I hope so.
Hey, don't.
It's not your
what you wish for. Yeah. He'd be like, well, they've got a kicker ramp there, you know.
Well, the thing is, like, I've been doing this for so long, taking the car out of racing and doing a lot of this stuff. Sebastian Loeb, Petter Solberg, all these guys can do a donut with a car, but can they do it in these certain situations I've put myself in? Probably, but they just probably don't have the experience that I do to know the setups and what we do and how we do all this. But like I said, I'm not the greatest driver in the world. I've just come up with creative and fun ways to use these amazing tools that we have, like this Ford Fiesta right here, and do different and rad stuff with it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, do you know Caneville is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I know Caneville from motocross, right?
That's what I know it from, guys. Right.
I took this car right here and took this car around Caneville, and we made a video called Gymkhana. And it's basically the Gymkhana style driving, but in Caneville. Now, that's just mixing things that I know from different industries. I know Caneville. It's actually called Swing Arm City. It's part of the... what's it called? Coral something. I can't even remember off the top of my head right now. It's a national park here in Utah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. God, it's so terrible. I can't remember it right now.
I'm out on this one.
Too much on my Coral Reef National Park. Anyway, it's just part of that. And I've been down there with a couple different people, Jim Mangan, that we did a project. But sometimes it's just the matter of converging some of these things that I know and people that I know that do certain art or production that we need for certain marketing companies, and just put it together to have a lot of fun and make rad content.
Yeah. Well, is he coming up with the ideas? Like you say, you guys sit around and go, okay, what can we do? And you have the ideas. Are you going, hey, here's what we want you to do? Or are you going, hey, have fun?
Part of it is us kind of doing our production and our look and that sort of thing, and helping Travis get the right elements in there. And the other part is Travis just being Travis. I want to jump this or do this or whatever. And Travis has always got wild and creative ideas, and I think that's what he's really going to bring to that, is a different level of fun than what I bring. So I'm excited to see that.
You got a pretty long-standing relationship with Troy. He's designed, or you guys design the cars together, but he paints it, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I've known Troy forever, and, like when I was at DC and I wanted a helmet painted, he just laughed at me, because he was so busy back in the day doing everybody's helmets, And so I ended up getting my early helmets designed by like AP Designs, and then eventually, as I started racing cars, I went back to him and like, dude, please paint some helmets for me. So he's been painting helmets for me for about 10 years. But I've known him for a long time, just because, because I was in the industry with all you guys and remember drinking with him a lot.
You got any good stories about drinking with him that you can tell?
No. It was mostly like industry events and stuff, I remember one time drinking with him and Palmer, though. That was always entertaining.
Oh, that sounded like that could be entertaining.
Yeah, I don't remember much of that night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always, like, Troy just is someone to me that, like, he's grown his success and he's been a smart businessman, but at the core of it is the talent of being the painter. You know what I mean? Like, I still remember, like, all of Jeremy's cool helmets that were so innovative and so different, and we're just at the cutting edge of what was cool at that time, like in the early 90s when they had the tassels to the light on top and all that stuff. So I just love working with him. He's such a great guy, and the last couple of years, this is the second year we've actually worked together to to make a livery on my race car based around, his graphics and his vision mixed with what I loved from motocross. So I wanted like his style of moto gear translated to my car.
Yeah.
And we worked together on that. He would suggest some stuff, and I'd take it and tweak it a bit, and he'd suggest some more stuff, and it was a fun collaboration.
Is that the driving suit also? Does he help with that?
No, because that's just we get the car done, and in the driving suit you just take the elements and put it on. But he does the helmets though.
Yeah, I saw in his office one day, which my favorite thing is to watch him take a white sheet of paper with just a helmet on it, an outline of a helmet, and watch him go. Have you sat when he's done doing that, designing one?
Yeah.
And it's like it's just this real messy scratches, and
you don't even know where it's going.
Yeah, what are you doing? And then it all comes together, and you're like, damn. And then he takes the colored pens and finishes it up, and when it's done, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted.
And also to have that three-dimensional view, and when I say three-dimensional, I mean, I should just say multi-dimensional, because you have a 3D object, but then like the layers and the depth of some of the paint and some of that stuff. It's just such a cool art form to me,
Same. And he had the pictures I saw were your car, your helmet, and your mountain bike, and they all matched. He got a specialized. What is that? A Epic, or what do you got over there?
It's a Demo 8 downhill bike.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, they all match the same kind of look and color scheme. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, and even this year he painted my race helmet with my downhill helmet, so they both looked the same and matched together.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I love seeing that.
I saw you did a video with like a guy designing a Fox body Mustang, like.
Yep.
Yeah, and he did it all virtually. Is that the first time you?
Yeah, that's a guy named Ash Thorpe, and he's one of the people that we work with to do some of the vehicle launches and vehicle design. He's designed the car that I currently race, which is a 90s Ford Escort. And then that design, like, we've just had so much success with the Hoonigan, which is a 65 Ford Mustang, that I've always wanted to do a Fox body, which is like around the year 1990. And Ash is just a really talented guy. He actually was hired to design the Batmobile in the movie that comes out next year.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and so, but he does everything. He's very artistic and can do everything in the computer, but he also understands the engineering of a car.
You need to have the performance and the
so he gets that side of it. There's plenty of guys out there that can just slap stuff all over the place in a computer, but to really understand why all this stuff works and where it comes from is difficult. And Ash has a real talent for that. So I've worked with him several different times. And
so are you building that Fox body?
Potentially, yeah. Sometimes these processes just take a long time. To build $1 million one-off race car with all the spares and everything, it's not something you just flip a switch and go do.
Just knock it out.
So, and we've done that in the past where we wait till the release of the car and then show all the work that went into it. But this time, we're kind of bored sitting around during this quarantine. We're like, hey, let's do this backwards. Let's show what we've already done.
They love that.
Yeah. And so we made a whole episode on my YouTube channel about it, and really kind of had fun with the whole concept of it, because like my idea is to actually do a Gymkhana, like 90s style in Miami, like all white race car with white logos and just the whole 90s sort of Miami look.
Like a white dust blowing out the back.
Yeah,
exactly. It was really cool to see you guys go over that, because you guys shaded the car differently and painted it differently in the computer, and it was like, it looked not different, but completely different, like a completely different car almost.
Yeah, well, that's the fun that you can have with the computer. It's like I remember earlier in my life just wanting, like, being so stoked on the car I had and then wanting a good photo of it, And now they could just crank them out in the computer like it's nothing. He can adjust the lens that he's looking at the project from.
Crazy,
I want a long lens from 100 feet away, or I want a fisheye, a hip-hop look from 5 feet away, And then also what you're talking about, the shading and that sort of thing. One of the versions was a completely carbon fiber version with embedded logos into the carbon fiber. And that's just an idea that he came up with and was able to translate that idea in the computer and make it come to life. And then another one was just like the wildest livery that he could come up with that was like a real digital digitized looking thing. But that's what's available nowadays. And if you have the right people with the right contacts and the right knowledge, you can do that. And luckily, I befriended Ash a couple of years ago, and he was just stoked to work on a project of mine. So we worked together and became good friends, and he just does rad stuff.
That's kind of your education, is a little bit of that computer technology, drafting, design. Do you get into any of that with him, or has it moved on?
No, I quit actually doing that stuff in the late 90s. Like, I worked in Photoshop and Illustrator and all that stuff, but by the time I was moving up with responsibility in the company, I just couldn't do that anymore. I just didn't have the time, because you constantly have to be understanding the new updates and all that sort of thing. And I loved doing it. The DC logo that you see there on the shoe, like, an artist did the basics of that logo, and then I manipulated it to what I wanted it in Illustrator and made the final logo.
Is that right?
Yeah. So that's the extent of how I used to do things.
Does it have a meaning, DC? Is it short for something?
It actually meant Drawers Clothing, which was one of our companies at the time, right? So much of the English language is trademarked. It's very hard to come up with new company names. They have to be so original. And so with DC, I had actually made DC logos for Drawers Clothing, so I knew I could make something out of that. And we were struggling. We were submitting all sorts of different names, and they were all coming back rejected from the trademark office. So we submitted DC because I knew I could make a logo out of it, and it came back that we could use it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good to know.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Rhino and Factory Fill with all the drawers stuff.
Yeah.
That's so funny. So we did a little tour around here, saw pretty much all the cars you've got. Insane stuff. What's your favorite?
The thing is, as a race car driver, I love things that help you win. Do you know what I mean? Like, people ask, like, "Oh, do you want to have an electric car?" I'm like, well, will it be the fastest? Because I want to win. So this Fiesta that's sitting behind you is one of my favorites, because I won a lot of events with this car. We had developed this chassis for a long time and had a lot of success with it. Even an evolved version of this, I set the fastest lap time last year at Nitro World Games in the Rallycross race. I had a terrible event because I kept getting punctures, but I was the fastest guy on the track. And it's just an evolution of that car sitting right there. So when it comes to racing, that chassis that I'm sitting next to right now is one of my favorite chassis in the entire world. But my favorite car to drive, just in general fun, would be my Ford Mustang Hoonigan. And it's really soft suspension. The chassis, the way everything's set up, just makes it really fun and predictable to drive.
It's beautiful too.
Yeah.
It's something you look at it, and it's different enough, but it's just got a certain, I don't know. I keep looking at the picture, and I'm like, it's just it looks mean, but not too mean. I don't know how to explain it. It's just got all the right things. It looks so sick when you walk up, and it looks so unique. It draws your eyes to it. Yeah, I really love that car. It was incredible to design and then go out and test and then start driving. And eventually we put twin turbos on it and run it on methanol. It's got 1,400 horsepower. And now it just feels like it wants to kill me, but I still love it. That picture, it's not far from it. Yeah. That was the one where your rear wheels were hanging on the ass end of the top of Pikes Peak there. Yeah, that would have gone. Didn't you say that was a little closer than you were actually planning? Yeah, that was the second try at that corner. The car wasn't running very well. We were having some issues with the turbos, and it just, I had to be on the throttle to get it to respond earlier than you would want it to be. Imagine going into a corner on a dirt bike, but having to go wide open 50 feet back where you thought you needed to be. Do you know what I mean? That's the sort of problem that I was having. And so I went through there before and got on the gas too late, so I didn't get the acceleration I wanted. So I'm like, okay, I'll back in my mind. I have this other point where I'll hit the gas, and it just kicked in too early that time. And so I ended up wider on the corner, more aggressive, and if the front wheels are still on the tarmac, and if they hadn't stayed on the tarmac, it would have been a bad day. Were you shitting your pants a little bit right then? It was one of those moments where it was like, oh shit moment, and then but it was over, and I pulled out of it, and it was a very happy moment right after that, because it's not pretty down there. Yeah, it's not pretty. That's called Evo Corner, because a Mitsubishi Evo flew off that corner, thinking they were on a lower corner,
And so they came in too fast, and that corner tightens. And as it started to tighten, they realized and started to brake and turn in, and the car just didn't turn. It just pushed, and they went straight off. So it's a...
Speaking of that, the incident I wanted to talk to you about, they say, like racers will say, with age comes a cage. If you're tired of getting hurt on a dirt bike, get a side-by-side or get a car and go car racing. Maybe they are safer, but the race I watched was in the UK in 18 somewhere, and you said something happened with the tranny. It wasn't working right as you went to get on it. Something happened, and you caught something on the inside, rolled, and immediately the car burst into flames.
Yeah.
And the video doesn't show you getting out, but I mean, like from there's a driver's perspective camera in there, and I mean, it's just like the engine compartment's burning.
Yeah.
Shit your pants then? I mean,
yeah, it was more disappointment actually than anything.
That was you shit your pants? The car.
The car. That was a 90s Ford Escort RS Cosworth, and those cars, the early 90s, the cars were just, the technology was coming along, electric diffs and that sort of thing, and they were progressing quite fast, but they were unreliable. And I really liked that generation of car, so I bought this one. We used it in Gymkhana 10, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go race some events with this. I want to drive this classic car in national events and see how I do, see if I can get on the podium with this 90s car. And every time I drove that car, something broke on it. And even in that event, right before I started those stages, the electronic diffs just weren't working. We had to keep resetting them, and the gearbox was messing up. It kept misshifting. And we had 2 stages to go to get back to service, so I did pretty good on the first stage, and I was 2nd or 3rd overall in this national race. And so we were coming back out. We were a half mile from the end of this stage, a half mile more to go, and then we'd be transiting back to service, and they would fix these problems. We'll hopefully fix them. So this is one of the last corners I'm going through, and it's all about wheel speed when you're sliding on gravel. And I wanted to be in 3rd gear with high revs to make the car go slide wide, high wheel speed, slide wide around this. It's like I know the corner by heart. It's one of my favorite corners in this race. So I downshifted to 3rd, and it hesitated. So therefore, the wheels are slowing down. So instead of sliding wide, going around this corner, all of a sudden the car's on the inside of the corner, and on the inside of this corner are some rocks. So I clip one of those rocks, and the sad thing is, right when I hit the rocks, it actually shifted. So I hit these rocks, and we roll, and rolls in rally aren't that big of a deal. You mess up the car a bit cosmetically, maybe break the windshield. You land on the wheels, you can keep going.
The crash wasn't super spectacular.
No, a lot of times there's actually a bunch of spectators there too. So even if the car was stuck or something, spectators run over and push you back on the stage, and you go, right? So I wasn't that worried about it. I was like, crap, I think I actually downshifted in the middle of the roll, like ready to go. And we landed on our wheels. I'm like, great. And then I look up, and what happens with these older cars is there was a fuel rail on top of the engine, and those fuel rails would break, and so it would basically be spitting gas
all over the top
into the hot engine bay, and it would get on the turbo and basically just start a fire. So there's a fire suppression system in the car, but it's not made to fight fuel being pumped onto a fire. So it started really fast. Alex grabbed the fire extinguisher. Alex is my co-driver. We both panic, get out of the car, and I think
how hard? I mean, you're buckled in pretty good. Yeah. How quickly are you guys able to quickly get out? Because the video shows you kind of grabbing for the steering wheel.
Yeah, quick enough. I take the steering wheel off, and I'm getting out of my belts, and the cord that's actually connected to my helmet for the intercom was stuck on something, so I'm trying to get it off, and Alex is like, hurry up, get out, and I'm trying, and it didn't take us long to get out, but by the time we get out, the flames are going pretty good.
Yeah.
So we get out, and there's spectators at this place. There's marshals. There's actually a couple buses. So I think we found 4 fire extinguishers. But the hood's closed, and fuel is pouring out onto the engine. So it was a lost cause. We emptied 4 fire extinguishers, used the fire suppression system, and it just never went out. That car burned to the ground.
Yeah.
So it sucked. The Kazi's one of my favorite rally cars of all time. And I was now watching this expensive car burn to the ground while I stood there. Nothing I could do. But I love the car, so we bought another one of those cars. They're not that rare. There was a lot of them made in the 90s. We bought another one and just said, hey, look, I love racing this car. I like the 90s engine, but I don't like the 90s gearbox. I don't like the 90s diffs. We need to make it safer. The electronics was terrible too, so we updated that car, made it a little bit wider so it would handle a little better. So it still has the feel and the flair and everything of this 90s car, but it's now a modern, reliable race car.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
What's the most sketchy?
Sorry for the long story.
No. I watched the video, so it's interesting.
I didn't see that one, but I remember you mentioned on the way up here.
I mean, that would scare the hell out of me when you're strapped into this thing so tight. And, I mean, like you said, that fire, it didn't slowly build. It was like the whole engine compartment's going.
Yeah, the thing is, like, as a race car driver, things happen. Like same thing on a dirt bike. You always there's going to be mechanical problems.
Yeah.
There's going to be errors. There's going to be times where
he snapped his bike in half because he couldn't clear the triple.
Yeah. Hard to clear the triple with the skirt of your piston broke out.
Yeah. So there's always these moments that are going to happen, and I've made mistakes. I've had some crappy mechanical stuff happen, but that's one where there's actually kind of an interesting story behind it. So I like actually telling that story because it's actually something that they knew. There were several of those cars that burned to the ground in the 90s because of this exact same problem. Yeah.
Is there other moments, like what was the sketchiest moment you've ever had in a car where you thought you might die, whether it's a moment like that or...
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best moments of my life because it was one of the sketchiest. And what we're talking about is Evo Corner that on Pikes Peak that I shot for Gymkhana.
I'll show a picture of it.
Yeah, we'll drop a photo in.
But there's always crashes when you're pushing in the moment of, trying to be as quick as you possibly can. And unfortunately, one of the sayings is, and it applies to dirt bikes too, it's like if you're not scared, you're not going fast enough, and you've got to find those limits, and especially when you're learning and you're trying to develop the skills or you're racing for a championship. One of my biggest crashes in my career was the last race of a national championship here in America. I had a great competitor named David Higgins I was racing against, and we were battling for every 10th of a second. It was the last day of the event, the last day of the championship, and I had written a note for a particular corner that didn't caution me enough. There was a little drop on the outside, and I went through this corner flat out, and rear wheel dropped off and fell into a little hole, and we just tumbled down the stage 6 times, and parts flying everywhere. And it was really scary. And my wife was in the race too, racing behind us, and I survived, and I frantically tried to call her because I didn't want to come through her to drive
see
through.
Your car all
30 cars behind me about 30 minutes later and see this carnage of this. Because, we rolled probably 80 miles an hour and probably rolled 6 or 7 times down the stage.
Like, I've seen one of Travis on a gravel road where it's
went down the embankment.
He is just,
Yeah, the wheel flies off.
Yeah, is it similar to that?
He's screaming at the end. Yeah, that was awesome. Typical Travis. Yeah, similar crash to that. That one's a little
was
more.
A hell of a ride.
That was a little more dramatic, but mine was very, very similar.
Have you had in something like that? I've often wanted to ask people because you hear about people saying rolls can be different. Like some can really be violent when it digs like metal.
Yeah.
Have you had it to a point where it's rattled your brain or given you vision issues, or because I've seen guys come out and they've burst blood vessels or had issues from violent roll, especially in off-road truck racing, the short course when those guys would touch. I've seen a few guys come out and they couldn't drive because they had.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've had some pretty bad crashes. Not too many of them, but none of them. The worst I've ever gotten hurt is spraining my ankle. Basically, I was snowboarding the following weekend, so pretty lucky in that way. So there are some terrible crashes. Rally is a terrible sport sometimes for that because we're racing in forests. There's trees.
Well, when it goes wrong, there's no runoff.
Yeah.
A lot of times you guys, even when you're doing it perfectly, it almost means clip your bumper on the inside of that tree stump and let the ass in, clip the tree on the way. That's perfectly hitting it, but you got no room for error.
Yeah.
Well, there was a race, I want to say it was in Switzerland. You can see the Matterhorn in a part of it. And there's a big jump on the course. And I mean, you're sending this jump. It's a badass segment, but then there's a section. The road is like, I mean, if it's wide enough for 2 cars, it's just barely. And it's zigzagging like this. It's a sheer drop off this side. It's lined with rocks on this side, trees on this side. And you guys are hauling ass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually called Rally du Valais, which is in Switzerland. And the Matterhorn is visible at one part from one of the roads. And, you know, for me to be able to go race in the Alps, like that's one of the coolest things in the world.
Say,
you know, like it just doesn't get much cooler than that. So, yeah, I hope to actually go back potentially to that race this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I saw Mike Ryan go off at Pikes Peak in that Freightliner.
Yeah,
and I mean, it just it's all pine trees, and it just whacked the pine trees right off,
like
and
a weed whack almost.
Oh yeah, dude, it was like, and it's a freight. So it's like what do you call it? Exhibition class, and it's a Freightliner.
A diesel, semi.
Oh yeah, dude, he runs it up there pretty quick. He's a stunt guy, and so, but dude, he went off that, and it just mowed these trees down.
Yeah.
But back to the crashes, though. The FIA, which is the major sanctioning body for racing in the world, they're very good about adjusting the safety rules and continuing to make the cars safer and safer. And along with the helmets, the Hans devices.
You guys do wear Hans devices?
Yeah. Oh, it's so important for rally because there's potential of these side impacts or front impacts into trees.
Yeah.
You know,
I was going to say, I've seen some of those side impacts and it's just bam, you see the head snapping there so hard.
But there are just freak accidents. There's guys that have died. There's even Robert Kubica, who's the F1 driver, that he hit a guardrail in Italy on like a national event in a rally car.
Under, huh?
So no, what happened was he hit the guardrail, and as he was hitting it, the guardrail separated. So the separator like this. So this part of the guardrail came through the engine and through the car.
Sawed him in half.
And hit his arm basically, and basically disconnected his forearm and arm. So he lost his F1 racing career because of this accident, which was a completely freak accident.
Wow.
But he was incredibly fast in a rally car. It is his skills from the F1 car. He's one of the best ever that's come from circuit type racing over to rally and done really well at it.
What you mentioned that race in Switzerland that was cool. Where are the best fans for rally? Like what's the coolest race you've ever done? Is it like Moto where the Euro fans are just nuts, you know?
Yeah, it's
a lot of motorsports fans.
You know, all around the world, there's great fans here in the States. The British fans are some of the most polite fans in the world, and knowledgeable fans. Then you go somewhere like Argentina where they do the WRC event down there, and they used to have a million people on the stages over 3 days.
And standing on the roads.
I was going to say.
Yeah, Portugal, it was really big. So yeah, it's such a dramatic difference between like the fans in Finland that are very reserved, except for when they're drinking out on the stages, you know.
Well, I am stunned to see that they'll line the courses.
Yeah.
And they'll be in the spots where you're like, ooh, shouldn't be there, like outside of a curve or something.
Yeah, the national events, it's a really big issue, but the FIA for like the world events,
they're pretty good.
They're very strict about it, you know.
There's a lot of video and a lot of clips of San Marino, that event.
Yeah, Rally Legend.
That looks wild. I mean,
yeah, that's probably the wildest rally in the world right now. Because San Marino is a small little country inside Italy, so they have their own rules, and they're just a bit more wild.
It's a cool spot though. The castle's on the top and that.
Yeah.
Do they still have the Monaco rally, or is that gone?
They do. Yeah. So that's called Rally Monte Carlo. It's definitely one of the most challenging events in the world. I just never got a chance to do it.
I just was thinking, like Monaco and the glitz and glamour. I didn't know if there was something on your bucket list.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the glitz and glamour, the service parks and sort of start are down there, but everything else is up in some of the toughest stages in the world up in the mountain, because you'll start on dry tarmac at the bottom and be going through ice and snow in these passes and stuff. So the actual tire selection for that event is unlike any other event in the world.
Wow, that's nuts. How much moto? You mentioned you haven't been riding much, but you want to get back into it. You bought some new property.
I bought some new property. I have a son that's 9 years old. He likes to ride. My 2 daughters like to ride. But I just, as the race career started getting on, I just sold my dirt bike. I I went from riding 3 days a week at like Elsinore and Glen Helen and Paula, to nothing.
Yeah.
And I really miss it. Like, man, those days of going out on like a Tuesday and riding Elsinore with hardly anyone there, that was so much fun. And meeting up with someone like Rhino or MC and going and doing that. It was a great time, and I really, really genuinely miss that. So hopefully I'll build a track here soon and be able to ride.
Maybe it's even time for a dual sport. Like a little off-road bike. If you got the land and all this open area around here, I got to imagine having a dual sport bike or just an enduro bike. It's just, there's got to be so much fun stuff to do around.
Yeah, I think I would enjoy that. I get out actually a lot in my Can-Am to do that sort of stuff. But what I really miss, though, is tracks. I just love that feeling of nailing a turn or a double and landing on throttle and like that. There's just nothing like that. There really isn't.
Well, and mastering something too. Like today we were at that Flying Iron Horse Ranch this morning, and I was super out of my element in the morning. It was a little muddy. The jumps are all blind. They're pretty big, some of them, and once it was sketchy at first, but then once I started getting the timing, tracks coming in, and you're hitting these doubles just right and railing these sand turns. And I'm 45. I haven't raced in, good grief, 20 some years, but that is still like such a rush, when you get it right. Like hitting a good golf swing, all of those shanks off into the bushes are all made up for with just one good drive or something.
I mean, I'm not a golfer, so I can't really compare, but there aren't very many things that compare to me to like having a good lap especially on a new track. When you go out and you're like, get the right speed on a double or triple or nail a corner. Together. Yeah, like when you pull, you come off the track like exhausted and you're like, damn, that was good.
Yeah.
That's all I had. That's all I had as well.
Yeah, I miss that feeling. Snowmobiling a little bit does that for me. Obviously, racing, especially like a good rallycross track. There's this track in Sweden called Holius that has jumps and turns over crests and stuff like that you can nail the perfect lap and you get that feeling coming off, But I really just miss that on the dirt bike.
Yeah.
Do you think you could make some kind of shifted gears? Do you think you could make some kind of like rallycross for UTVs where there's like a little bit of a rally?
They do that. There's actually several rallies in the States that let them run UTVs. I don't know if I'd want to crash at that sort of speed with a cage right there and that's nothing else. But they also do the UTVs on like the Lucas off-road courses. They have a good championship with that stuff too. I think that would probably be the closest thing that I'd want to do with those things because they do have a lot of potential. I'd like to see more of like not like a supercross track, but almost like a good outdoor national track, but made for UTVs. Yeah. That would be really fun.
Like inside, outside lines and multiple booms.
Yeah, and jumps where you could time things too, like a double and stuff like that. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, but if you miss time, you'd definitely go over the bars.
It would hurt. Yeah, the impact would hurt.
Thanks for taking us down that left turn there, Donnie. How close are you following the sport still?
You know what? I actually thought about that earlier today, and I'm like, crap, I haven't bench raced about supercross and motocross in a long time, and I've been good friends with Davey Coombs for so long, and when I really followed the sport, it was always so fun to sit with him and talk about what's really going on in the sport and hear all that inside talk, and I just haven't anymore. I still know, obviously, like Ricky and Roxanne and Chad, and it's great to see those. I think those guys have been in town now for 2 weeks, so it's been cool to see them. They've come out the ranch or in Axes. I've ridden bikes with Ricky, mountain bikes. But man, I still enjoy watching the racing when I can. I turn it on and still love it the same way that I did before, and it's great to see Eli doing what he's doing right now, and it was fun to watch the young kids last weekend and that Aussie 16-year-old get on the podium. So
Jet's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, actually, apparently might go bike riding with him tomorrow.
Yeah?
Yeah, with Johnny.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so that sort of stuff, having all those guys right now in town is just really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is super fun.
It doesn't happen that often.
No, it doesn't. Randomly, when the Supercross, was here once a year, everybody come in town, and guys like Kenny would come up and stay maybe a little bit longer and go ride and stuff. But, it's cool because going back to Southern California, it's the hustle and bustle, and I get to see MC and see everybody, but it's SoCal. Everything's going on. Here, though, it's so rad that, hey, let's go hang out for dinner.
Yeah.
Let's go ride bikes. Let's go to the lake.
Different pace.
Yeah, it's such a different pace.
Do you hate going back to Cali now? Like, are you just like,
I love seeing all of our friends, industry people, interacting with everybody from from Monster to Troy Lee. But man, I don't miss the traffic. I moved here because I wanted to get away from all that. I grew up in Southern California, but I've lived here now 10 years full time, and I have friends that are like, "When you moving back?" And I just laugh like there's no way I could move back.
Is that right?
I love being in the outdoors. I love from the great snow that we get here to being able to run down to Moab and ride my mountain bike or rip around the Can-Am. Like there's so much potential here, and there's still a great crew of people. Like most of my friends, in Southern California are industry people, and like industry friends, but here you still have like a very similar thing. There's so many pros here from different industries, from gold medals like Sage Kotzenberg to, all the guys that run Woodward, so it's such a great variety of industry and people.
Is that what brought you here? I mean, it seems like you lived in Colorado. Maybe that would have made more sense. Like, what brought you to Park City?
I started coming here in the late 90s because it was such an easy flight from San Diego.
Okay.
And the snow was so good, and we were making snowboard boots with DC, and there was such a rad crew that used to ride at Snowbird, guys like Andy Hetzel to MCA from the Beastie Boys. That Snowbird was such a cool scene in the late 90s. And so I just fell in love with it, and then started coming to Park City, fell in love with it. So then we built the house that became the Mountain Lab. That was my personal house that we used for DC.
Is that right?
For the DC Mountain Lab, yeah. And just my wife and I just loved it so much, we decided to move here full time when our kids started getting to school age.
You had to plant some roots somewhere, right?
Yeah, and it just made sense to do it here for us instead of Southern California.
Yeah. Okay, so I grew up in Montana. We do a ski trip every year to Big Sky.
Yeah, love Big Sky.
And every year I go up the Powder Ridge, and I look down, and there's the Yellowstone Club, and I'm always like, God, I wonder what it's like over there. It's a private ski community. I think it's a fairly large membership fee, very exclusive. Yeah. And if I understand right, you have a place in there.
I don't.
Oh, you don't?
No, I just know very nice people that invite me up to hang out.
Okay, so what the hell is that place like? This is like going, if you're a skier, it's like going to the Playboy Mansion or something. That's how I imagine it.
Yeah, there's guys like Nick Woodman, the founder of GoPro, that has an incredible house there, and an old friend of ours here that actually had the DC outlet stores, a guy named John Thompson, that's their head sales guy up there. And so it's just, it's an incredible place that I'm lucky enough to have some friends with that get to go there and play. So yeah, it's a private ski resort and development. So if you just picture a housing development with a golf course, now just add in a mountain that's private.
So you're skiing past people's homes sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes you're out on the mountain, there's only 10 people on the whole mountain.
Yeah, I've never seen it crowded. You'll just see like one person here, one person over here.
Yeah.
Is it good skiing?
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, no, they have great terrain, and if you get bored of it, it actually connects with Big Sky. You can go over and ride Big Sky.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very grateful that through all this world of everything I've done with DC and my race career, that I have great friends. People like Nick Woodman that invite us out, me and my kids, and we go to experience these places.
Yeah.
So it's been very cool.
Sometimes the one thing better than having like a nice boat or an airplane is having a friend or family.
Yep. Well, that's the thing. I've been lucky. You talked about sort of this marketing thing that I've been able to do. A lot of that too is connections and working with great people. And once you set the standard of what you do, people come to you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like Ricky wouldn't want to have been part of our team if he didn't know that we already did rad stuff.
Right.
And then when we partnered with Ricky and then started making the ads that we made for him and the shoes and all that sort of stuff, he got more and more engaged. And in today's still a good friend because there was such a great partnership of us working together. And so I've been able to do that, my entire life, and lucky to have that bar set so high that people just want to come and work with me. And so that worked so well for us at DC. I had an incredible business career at DC, and then I was able to take all that and go into car racing and take all those relationships and that bar that we set in marketing and just apply that and do that in the car racing. So, man, I say it often that I'm a lucky bastard, but I really am. Like, I've had this incredible business career, and I've had this incredible racing career, and I do it with some of the greatest people on earth. Yeah. So something I'm very appreciative of.
Well, you've definitely earned it, man. I mean, like I said, the marketing stuff, I'm just like, I mean, there's no way you're just Forrest Gumping your way into this stuff. It's clearly like very specific and purposeful. So
yeah, well, I have this mind that doesn't turn off on that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and the fact that like Troy is a friend, and I say, call him up, Troy, I have this idea. What do you think? And we're able to combine our talents together to make rad stuff. Yeah. But you gotta live it, and you have to love it.
Absolutely.
And that's where you see a lot of successful people that they have this thought and then they can't turn it off. Like, my wife will get mad at me sometimes. I'll be staring off in the middle of nowhere. She's like, you're not thinking about what we're doing right now. You're thinking about something. Sorry.
It happens.
I think we can all relate.
Yeah, exactly.
What's next for you? What's the bucket list stuff you got that you still want to check off?
Well, for me, I'm very lucky. I still get to go out and race cars and enjoy that. But the sort of next thing for me is actually watching my kids go do this. Mm-hmm. My oldest is 13 and my youngest is 9, and they both are very talented with whatever we give them.
Girl, boy?
Yeah, the oldest is Leah. She's 13. Okay. I recently taught her how to slide that Ford Escort around.
That was a cool video. That was a cool video,
Yeah, so I taught her to drive a stick the weekend before.
Sweet.
Like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, taught her little bits of it. Monday morning, I took her down the track and taught her how to drift this car.
What are you teaching her to drive a stick in? What does she reach the pedals in?
Well, she's 5'3", 5'4" now. She's actually taller than my wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I taught her how to do it in a Ford Focus RS, just out at our ranch. And then Monday morning, we took her down the track and did that. So she's got good talent. Everything she gets in, she can match my times in go-karting. She's driven, off-road stuff. Probably the next step for her is to get in a rally car or like an off-road truck or race like the Can-Ams and the Lucas Oil Series. We're still trying to figure that out. This year, she's just getting more instruction on race technique by karting.
Okay.
So that's kind of the most convenient thing for us this year with everything that's happening with the virus. Yeah. So we had the first race 2 weekends ago for her and Micah, who's our 9-year-old, and they both have done hardly any of it, and we're as quick as the kids that have been doing it for a while. So, which is, for me, it's actually the success of seeing my kids be happy doing something like that, and then trying to transfer all this knowledge that I have into them, because we have this unique opportunity that, I've been able to do all this stuff and they enjoy it. And
that's cool.
I want to take them and, like a Moto Dad, like, okay, let's start you small. Let's get you going and see where it goes. And it's weird. We've already had some offers for Leah to go do some crazy stuff, but I'm like, no, let's pump the brakes. Like, you gotta get there with the right steps.
A lot of times kids don't want to listen to their parents' instruction. How do you kind of deal with that?
They're
actually probably not there yet.
Yeah, they actually do listen to me. My daughter actually listens better than my son, but I think that's an age thing. At 9-year-old, you're still like squirrel, But they both listen. I think it's the fact of their dad does something that they've seen the accomplishments of, so they kind of have to take what I say as not rule, but there's credibility there, I guess.
They know you're a dad and a good coach.
Yeah, but I do mix in other people, though. I do have whoever I can come in because I think different perspectives are really important.
Do you have anybody that asks you to coach them on other technique?
I have, but I don't have the time. Like, that's where nowadays I'm still doing a lot of what I'm doing, but all my other spare time goes to my kids.
Well, that's a bummer.
That's
we were
time.
hoping that you could show Ping how to drive a stick shift. It's been a while, but maybe next
the
time.
pedals.
Maybe next time.
Would you send them like a dirt fish or something like that, or no? You feel like you can help them more?
No, they will definitely go to rally schools.
Yeah.
My thing is, I think you learn things from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Every teacher, like, you could go out and teach my kid on a dirt bike something that maybe somebody else wouldn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He might have something.
Right, and Ping would see something else. Oh yeah, go right on more on the ball of your foot. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, so I think that all of those experiences, and that, I don't know if I said it earlier, that like every time I get in the car, I try and learn something.
Yeah.
And I think that attitude works for anything and everything. Like, as long as you think of yourself as a student every time you go out. So I love taking my experiences from dirt bikes, from rally cars, from some circuit racing that I've done. I've even gone to an F1 coach, like this really sort of obscure guy that everyone's gone to. Kimmy's gone to him. Everyone has. But his techniques and the way that he teaches, it's totally different from everybody else. But I went to him just, if I could get one little thing and save me a quarter second per mile in rally racing, then it's worth it,
And what's that saying? A wise man can learn from even a fool, but a fool can learn from no one.
Yeah.
Right? So you can catch everybody, if you pay attention, you can pick up a little thing from anybody.
Yeah, I like the term student of the sport.
Yeah.
Like, I will always be a student. There's no way you will ever know everything.
Yeah.
Unless you're Davey Coombs and remember every possible stat somehow about motocross.
He's got the stats down, that's for sure.
But I just feel like you can always learn something. There's always a conversation, or you could hear like, oh, like Rhino used to do this, or Jeremy, I remember like hearing that Ricky used to, like, in Vegas, like the final race, he's in the gym the next morning. It's picking up on every little bit of info, and everything may not work for you, but even being able to try certain things and, that does work if I do it this way.
You've been able to, very fortunate to be able to go a lot of places, do a lot of things. If you had a dream vacation for you and your family, where would you guys go?
That was a random one, Ping.
I just thought,
like it. It was random,
here's a guy who can go anywhere he wants to go. Where would you go?
And which streets would you shut down? No kidding.
Well, I'm pretty lucky. I've been able to go a lot of places around the world. I really enjoyed Norway. I love Lake Powell. I love New Zealand. Like, if I was going to go somewhere to race some of the best roads in the world and vacation, it would be New Zealand.
New Zealand's amazing.
New Zealand, hands down. Queenstown is actually very much like Park City here, but on a lake. And then their race roads up north are just some of the funnest roads to race on in the world.
Didn't you win the rally in New Zealand?
I've won a couple of the national events and podiumed on the national events. I never did all that great in the WRC event there, but I was actually going to go back and do it this year in the second tier class. It's called R5. But they've had to shut it down for this year.
Yeah, you can't get in there.
Yeah, they've just had a very good success with what they've done with the quarantining and virus and everything, and they don't want to let everyone back in.
They just shut their airport down.
Yeah.
Thanks for not coming.
So we're adjusting some of my schedule.
Have you noticed? I said, "Hey, where would you go on vacation?" And he starts talking about the places with the best tracks to race.
Yeah, exactly.
My first two were actually Norway and Lake Powell.
Okay.
Which aren't necessarily race locations. Then I mixed in the one where I could do both. So, but I also love the Mediterranean, just places like Spain and Ibiza, where you eat some of the best food in the world, mixed with one of the nicest cultures in the world. Being on the beach with all sorts of people from all over the world, it's just very cool. My kids love that place too. So that's a fun one. If
you had to break your success with DC and now Hoonigan down to just like one simple thing, what's the key to your success?
I'd say loving what you're doing. Like I eat, sleep, drink what I'm doing, from the sports to the actual work, know, and I that stupid saying that's like, if you love what you're doing, you don't work a day in your life. I can't say that I love every day. There is a lot of crap that you deal with, and I've been
Well,
through.
it's never easy to build something of that magnitude.
No, and you can't
There's
make
gotta be
everybody.
bumps in the road.
You can't make everybody happy, and you have highs of great success, and then you have lows of, employees trying to sue you for something dumb, or, there was a point where we used to be a dog-friendly office, and my dog scared one of our employees. This is DC days, and we ended up having to tell everyone they couldn't take their dogs to work, and that was really sad. I loved bringing my dogs to work, but
I love
I
dogs.
realize that's a really random example, but that just shows, when you have a company that's 250 people, there's a lot of personality that goes into things, and what you think would be easy sometimes becomes very difficult, and it is what it is. But there's a lot of highs and lows to business, but the more that you love it, that you put your head down and think a 12-hour day is nothing, because I'm doing what I love to do, and we're being successful. That's a great feeling.
That's it. All right, last question, man. How do you want to be remembered in the action sports, motorsports world?
Wow. I've been asked that a couple times. Yeah, it's a tough question.
We get that with everyone. They go, wow, I didn't think about this.
I think the simplest thing is, for me, there's so many sports out there in the world. There's so many things that I love to do. At the end of the day, though, inspiring people to be creative and push themselves is what I really enjoy. Because not everybody can win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But going out and doing what you love to do and enjoying it and doing it in fun and creative ways. And that can mean anything from the graphics that you buy from One Industries or whatever to put on your bike to, climbing some crazy thing in Moab, or being able to, at one time, I just wanted to go race on Washougal. Ended up hating it because I thought it looked more smooth.
I was going to say, it looks great on the outside. Then you ride it, you realize it's slick and all over the place.
Yeah. It looked way better on TV than it did in real life. But, it's going out and experiencing those things, and I'd never give that up. And that's what I think. At the end of the day, if I can inspire people to go out and love these sports the way that I do and do it in fun and creative ways, that's what I would want.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to try to take some of that with us and maybe hope some of your marketing magic rubs off on us. Thanks so much for having us.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Absolute pleasure.
Appreciate you.
Bud.
That's
Appreciate
Ken Block. Check him out at what's your YouTube channel?
If you just search my name, it's just Ken Block YouTube channel.
Okay.
And then the brand is Hoonigan. That's where most all of our content is housed also. And then social channels is just search my name or KBlock43.
That's it. Awesome. That's Ken Block. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned. We'll be back to wrap it up.
feels so nice. Something in a photo. Right now, right now, right now. Let's do this right. Go slow out of moonlight. It's still shining. One day I'ma let go. Yeah. One day I'ma let go. Everyone's using me, but maybe that's something I like. Yeah, I've been on something since last month, but I'm feeling alright. Maybe I'm blind to see. Maybe I'm losing my mind. 'Cause I've been on something since last month, but I don't feel alright. It's me against myself. It's me against myself. I'm starting to black out, yeah. I'm staring at the stars. Running from myself, I'm running from myself. I'm starting to black out, yeah. I'm staring at the stars.
All right, welcome back. That was Ken Block. Amazing story, amazing shop. Go over to our Instagram page if you want to see a tour of this place. It's unreal.
Unique. I think it's a great
the
way to
most
describe
unique
it.
office space I've ever seen / race shop.
It's cool.
Pretty trick. So big thanks to Ken for having us out. Pretty exclusive place. Not a lot of people get in here, so
Yeah.
we appreciate it. We're going to end the show quickly because we got to get out of here, but thanks for watching. We've got another cool show coming up soon. And Gio, take us out, buddy.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And one quick thank you to our sponsors that made this possible, Yamaha. They do everything, and now in California you can get side-by-sides. Great news there. So also to PowerDot, they've been with us from the beginning. Great company, great product. Check them out, and remember 20% off at checkout using the code Whiskey Throttle. Method Race Wheels, also 20% off, which is actually a huge saving on those. Just got some new ones on my truck, and I promise you they are as good as people hype them up to be. Troy Lee Designs, they make cool stuff. From mild to wild to entry level to high end, they got something that fits you. SKDA, I just got new graphics on my new bike, and it looks insane. I'm a little bit biased. They designed it, not me, so I'm not taking their credit. But I think they knocked it out the park. Really cool. In fact, they're going to use that as a graphic on their website.
Is that right?
So I think it's going to be a Langston graphic. I don't know what they're going to call it, but I think that's the case. So anyway, buy it. You'll look good. Dunlop. Just nothing competes with Dunlop. They've won more championships than anyone in this country, and they continue to dominate. And if you don't believe me, go watch a motocross or supercross race and figure out what they're using for tires.
Try that MX-53 front with the MX-33 rear. Will not be disappointed.
Yep, you get as much traction with your Dunlops as you do with your Adidas shoes. So put some traction under your feet and don't eat shit going down the backside of a jump, like people that wore other stuff. Pro Circuit, they make pipes, they make all kinds of cool stuff. In fact, you see the bar raises for the 110s, the different mounts. They're getting more into that. We were hanging out with Mitch, and he was talking like, hey, this is the new thing. So keep an eye out. They're always got new stuff coming out, a new product, and also their deals of the week. Pretty cool.
Yeah, follow them on Instagram to get those smoking deals.
Well, what's cool is a lot of people bringing older bikes out of the garage or the barn. They need these products that seem a little bit old, but a sweet deal for a new pipe or a clamp. So check it out there. Nahila Concepts, they're always making new, fresh stuff, so check them out. And then use Whiskey Throttle at checkout and get a free gift. Seat Concepts, I'll tell you what, man, you don't want to be a dick to your ass either. They are really good and comfortable. Check them out. They have a lot of options, from smooth to the nice. If you want rippy ones to tear apart your butt, grab those. They got semi-grip, massive grip, wide, comfortable, lower, raised. They got everything. They got you covered. Fire Department Coffee, just the best, I'm telling you. They got 20% off, and of course, as Ping always mentions, they donate 10% of their proceeds to injured firefighters and their families in that, which I think is a really cool cause. Specialized, the best of the best. You heard Ken Block even telling us that is the best stuff. Get yourself a good bike. Get Specialized. OGIO, you got to carry your stuff around in something cool. These things never break. In fact, I wish I had my gear bag here. I've had it from when I rode for factory Yamaha. So it's a 07 gear bag that I still use. It's just sentimental now. And it still matches the colors I like to carry around. So anyway, we're all happy over there. Paleo Ranch Foods, they make great stuff. Check them out. They actually are in Walmart. So you can go walk in, try it out for yourself. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. And Langston Motorsports, come check us out. The power sports industry is on fire, and we've been crushing it. So thanks to everyone that's been supporting the sport and that supports this show.
That's it.
Boom.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.